Hey guys, welcome to the WWE podcast. We're going to get everything rolling in just a minute with a jam-packed show with Mary Grater. We go into crazy depth about the Undertaker's retirement announcement, the sexual assault allegations being brought to the forefront against some WWE superstars, and of course, jumping into your week in review, including a rant about Charlotte Flair, a crazy stat that you'll get to hear throughout the show, and so much more. So stay right here. We're going to get everything started right after this. Are you a guy who normally destroys belts? There's a new virtually indestructible men's belt on Kickstarter called the Belt of Orion. It won't crack at the holes, and it's 100% animal friendly. The secret ingredient is strong material used for the strap. The Mennonites use the same material for their horses' reins and harnesses because it does not crack at the holes over time. The buckle is nickel-free for those of you who have an allergy to nickel. And listen to this. When it's fully funded and after the belt is released into the world in this coming fall of 2020, one tree will be planted for each Belt of Orion sold on the website of truthbelts.com. That's truthbelts.com. So if you're a dude looking for a cool-looking, long-lasting belt, go to Kickstarter and search for Belt of Orion. That's Belt of O-R-I-O-N, where you can snag one of these tough belts at a great price, and you'll be helping animals and the planet. How cool is that? Check out the Belt of Orion on Kickstarter today.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, the most passionate and authentic wrestling analysis on the web. We've got you covered with every Raw, SmackDown, and NXT show, giving you a no bullshit opinion. We know you love wrestling. We do too. So let's get this show underway.
And that's the bottom line. What? 'Cause Stone Cold said so.
All right, guys, welcome to the show. And like I said at the very open, we've got so much to get to. And if you like long-form audio, well, this is your show for the week. Because I have Mary Grater with me, and we talked for a long time. Nearly 2 hours of discussing this week in WWE. And the big two that really dominated the first half of the show was the Undertaker's alleged retirement announcement during his documentary, Part 5, Chapter 5 of the Undertaker Last Ride docuseries that aired today, Sunday, June 21st, 2020 on the WWE Network, where Undertaker has said that, hey, I'm done, and the Cowboys finally riding off to the sunset. So we cover that. We also cover the allegations, the sexual allegations, assault allegations, and misconduct against Matt Riddle, specifically Jeff Gallagher, who has been released by WWE. So we really dove really deep into both of those topics, and it was a great conversation with Mary, a little bit back and forth. And I think you guys will enjoy the conversation that we had. It was very spirited and really just a blast to be able to talk with her about these things, because it is a big news day in WWE. Let me just tell you that much right now. So, and if we think that Undertaker maybe could be appearing sooner than later. So we also get into some conspiracy theories. We talk about Edge and Orton and Christian, and just really dive into Nia Jax and Charlotte and how good Bayley and Sasha have been as of late. So, I mean, really, we cover everything that we could have in the time allotted. We, as always, did not get to everything because we just do not have the time. And frankly, I'm getting very, very tired as we speak trying to edit this show. So, nonetheless, we're going to get to all of that in just a minute. But first, I do have some audio and a question that was emailed to us. So let's get to the email question first, and then we'll get to the audio so I can answer these on air as promised. The first question that I got, and it was a question that came in from Joe Owen. He says, "Hey man, just wanted to start by saying I'm from the UK and a fairly new subscriber. I've been listening to your podcast and past content regularly on my social distancing night shifts at work, and it's really getting me through them. So thank you. Great job. So awesome. Thank you. Not really a question, but more of an idea in my head about the Fiend character facing The Undertaker in a match, preferably a passing of the torch or a retirement match for Taker, and can't get a vision out of my head, as we know Undertaker is virtually back to the badass character now, and I feel as though the Dead Man gimmick would work better against The Fiend. So how about during a build-up or a segment match, The Fiend could get the better of the badass and pull him into the ring to hell, and when walking off, doing the laugh, the lights go out, and Taker could rise from the center of hell, back in his Dead Man gimmick, ready to set up the final standoff. Just something I found cool and hope you like it. Get back to me if you like it and think it would work. Thanks again. Yeah, it could work. And to be honest, I don't know if that's going to happen given the state of things with the documentary and Undertaker seemingly retired. I've been advocating for a Fiend versus Undertaker match at Survivor Series before he finally rides off, as it would evenly be a nice 30 years exactly since Undertaker debuted in WWE at this year's Survivor Series. I could see that happening. I think it would be a nice visual. I have my doubts, though. I have my doubts. I really think that it's probably going to be a Undertaker comes up, gives us his greatest hits, and leaves. I don't know if it's going to be a full-fledged match, but I don't know how WWE can pass on a Fiend Undertaker at least standoff, or at least some kind of interaction. So I would at least say, at the very least, at this year's Survivor Series, I could see a Fiend Undertaker interaction, and I'll leave it at that. So thank you for the question. Next question that we got, and this one is from a continuing listener, and he has put his 2 cents in on the show in more than one occasion, so it's always a blast. And let's just hear from Sharon, as we always do. Here we go.
Hello, Matt. So I'm answering your challenge about telling why does the cinematic Fiend with the Viking Riders and the Street Profits in Backlash was good. So, first of all, it was a movie. This is how you do a movie. You have a start, you have a middle, you have an end, you have a twist. That's it. This is like they wrote a script. The script was mostly clear, so this was the first step to make a good movie. The second thing, they chose a genre. They said, we want to do a movie that is based on ninja, on martial arts, on good people and bad people, and this is how you do a classic movie. Yeah, it is a B movie. It's a movie that belongs to a more non-quality movies, but this is how you do a movie. It is so different than what they did in the Money in the Bank, in the Boneyard match, in the Firefly Funhouse. First of all, it wasn't even a match. They didn't call it a match. They just did it as an experience that those people are going through. That's the first thing. The second thing, they did the technical right things. They had good editing, they had good shooting and a good camera performance, they had good music, they had right directing to the characters. You can see that those people really acted like someone. Yes, it wasn't connected to wrestling. Yes, I don't know why we should see it in a WWE, especially in a pay-per-view show. But this is what the WWE choose to do. They choose to do a movie, and this is some kind of example for a somehow good movie. And yes, it was very racist, but you gotta admit that it was funny for some time, that sometime you understood that there is some logic in what happens. There was no logic in the Firefly Funhouse, there was no logic in the Boneyard match, there was no logic in the Money in the Bank match. I mean, yes, there was weird things like one of the Vikings taking a chicken and eat it and then he gets energy. I mean, when you eat chicken, you're supposed to be tired and get squeezy and things like that. Yes, but at least it was like the Dana Brooke taking the money in the briefcase and then understanding, oh no, it's not a briefcase. So yes, at least it wasn't that kind of thing. So, yes, I hope that you understand my point. And yes, good luck in your show. Bye.
All right, so thank you so much for the input and the response to my challenge. And I hear you. And I hear what you're saying about that the WWE just basically chose to do this, and that they were all in, and that they at least tried to make it entertaining, and I agree with that. And I agree with it, and I think it comes down to, honestly, personal preference, personal taste. If you grew up during the Attitude Era, or even the Ruthless Aggression Era to some degree, I think that you may have a less positive view of these kinds of things. I also think, depending on your demographic, your age group, where you live, honestly, I think it could have an effect on how you view this. A lot of factors go into this, and how you view this, and how you think this could be entertaining. And I'm not attacking fans that think this is entertaining. I just think, because of how I like wrestling presented, that I don't like wrestling presented in this kind of way, because it takes away from what wrestling should be, and that's people who are being paid a lot of money to compete in the ring for championships that I'm supposed to care about. And when they talk about doing bowling and silly nonsense, it really caters to an audience that I'm not a part of. And maybe that's my problem. Maybe it's just that I'm not a part of that audience, so therefore I tune out. And WWE likes to serve many masters in their presentation of wrestling, where they have their serious matches, they have some comedy, they have the backstage segments, they have the purest wrestling matches, they have like all these different things, and they try to serve so many people that oftentimes they often end up serving nobody. Right? When you try to serve a lot of people, that usually is a sign that you're really not serving anybody very well. But I get what they're doing, and I understand your argument, and I understand why people would find this kind of thing entertaining. It's just, I guess, not my cup of tea. It's like asking me to eat seafood. I despise all seafood. All of it. I hate it. So it's asking me like eating seafood, but some people love it, right? So it's kind of like that. And so I get it, and thank you so much for your input. Alrighty, well, with that being said, guys, really not much more to say other than I'll be back on Tuesday with your Raw review. Wednesday will be a nostalgia night, but I'm thinking of doing something a little bit special this Wednesday. Keep in mind, keep tuned for that. It may not be a normal nostalgia night, and it's not going to be from the vault. It's going to be something brand new, but it could be focused on something other than nostalgia. I guess it's nostalgia. You'll see my idea as we roll along. And then Thursday, your AEW. You guys know the schedule. I don't need to tell you. A lot of content coming this week. That's really all that I have to say about that. So head on over to the website at wwepodcast.com. Also, go to Instagram. I'm now on Instagram. I'm no longer on Twitter. I am pretty much banned from Twitter for life. So go to Instagram and search WWE_podcast. That's where you'll find me. I'm also on Facebook at facebook.com/the WWE podcast. So Instagram, Facebook, search me out. I'm there. I don't have as many followers as I did on Twitter because it took me a long time to get that many followers. And so if you're looking at it like, oh, you only have like 800 followers. Well, yeah, because I'm just starting to get back in Instagram. So check me out there. We are there. We're trying to do some video. We're going to post some stuff. It's going to be a cool deal. So anyway, with that being said, guys, let's get to it. Let's get to the conversation with Mary Grater as we dissect in great length Undertaker and his retirement, Orton, Edge, sexual allegations, you name it. It's all here for you right now. So until then, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Well, you know what time it is. It is time for your weekend review. I've got Mary Grater back on the show with me. And holy moly, holy crap, we have a lot to get to with Undertaker officially retiring, reportedly and supposedly. We'll get into that. Sexual allegations against Matt Riddle and others. Obviously, we're going to cover things that happened during the week, including some big ticket items like Edge and Orton and Christian, as well as Bray Wyatt having his throwback character, AJ Styles becoming a new Intercontinental Champion, Bayley and Sasha killing it, a ton more. So, Mary, welcome back to the show. How's everything going?
Month 3 of the pandemic, plague, zombie apocalypse, whatever you would like to call it. I have a dry erase board for a calendar, that I change every month. And since this started, I've had little quotes of calling the month. And this month is called Somewhat Damaged. It's a Nine Inch Nails song. If you go and listen to that, guys, if you don't know it, you would understand. But, you know, chilling, living, trying to keep up on wrestling, trying to be positive, hoping to go back to work soon because I'm super bored. And other than that, I'm all good. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, I hear you. That's an interesting way that you're kind of tracking the months by giving them each a different name. And yeah, I have heard of that. I never really listened to Nine Inch Nails the whole bunch. And to be totally honest, I've never admitted this on this show, but I was secretly in middle school, high school, kind of like, I didn't mind the metal stuff, but I was honestly more into, and this is awful, I was honestly more into, like, secretly Backstreet Boys or Creed or, like, some of the bands that, like, people are probably maybe don't listen to now. I mean, even though Backstreet Boys are actually still creating music. So I was actually kind of on that secretly. I mean, I wouldn't do that in high school and say, hey, this is what I listen to. It would be like, no, I don't listen to that shit, right? So anyway, yeah, that's great. I'm doing well as well as can be expected. I mean, as we get into the summer months, things are opening up here. I hope everybody else is dealing with things in a healthy way as summer is upon us and you get yourself outside. So you know, this is a podcast that I didn't think I'd be doing, and at least on a very sudden basis. And when I say that, because with The Undertaker and having his documentary concluding and having his Chapter 5 just released, and it has been viewed by millions of people at this point, the name of this last chapter in this redemption story was a revelation. That was the name of Chapter 5, and we have come to now see that it was almost a surprise that was given to us at the end, that Undertaker seems to be done. This truly could be the last Undertaker match that we saw at WrestleMania in the Boneyard match. And let me just toss it to you, Mary. If this is indeed Undertaker's true retirement, are you surprised? Are you happy? How do you feel?
So watching the documentary, I mean, I don't know if I would say I was surprised. I kind of felt like why they were doing this and him starting to do more things as Mark Calloway and not the Undertaker and breaking kayfabe and stuff like that. I don't want to say I was surprised. I'm happy. The man has, and if you haven't watched the documentary, please, we've said this for the last couple of weeks every time I've been on the show, and I'm sure you've been saying it on your other shows with the other hosts. You need to watch this. You need to watch this documentary. It is probably the greatest wrestler of all time. I know that's an argument to be made. I mean, Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan, even though I think he's a joke, and all these other, you know, quintessential people that are in wrestling, but The Undertaker, watching his story from when they started it and what the documentary took, like, 4 years, I think it was, over 3-4 years.
Yep.
Like, that man has given everything to this business, and everybody who's talked about him on that thing, just that he's the leader. They called him the Godfather in this last episode, and it's true. And again, I won't say that I'm surprised, because, like, I felt like this was his last ride. You know, this was him doing what he needed to do to get over it. You saw, you know, everybody's had their feelings thinking that this was just Vince, who is just trying to, you know, make money off Taker. But a lot of it was him, you know, and him trying to come to terms with it. Yeah, when the streak ended, or at least at 20-0, before, like, he, you know, I think what was 20 was Punk? 20-0 was Punk?
Yes.
You know, I figured once he beat Punk, and that was probably the last best match that he had prior to him getting the hip surgery and being a little better recently, you know. I thought that should have been it, you know. I thought he should have retired. 20-0, the streak was never broken, and, you know, rode off on his horse into the sunset. I've always called him the Clint Eastwood of wrestling, because I just wanted him to be on a lawn and screaming, like, get off my lawn at kids, you know. But it was bittersweet, I guess. I don't think anybody was expecting it, but I thought that if he was finally going to retire, it was going to be in this documentary. So, like I said, I can't say that I'm surprised. I would have been more surprised if he was like, I'm coming back. Because it just felt like the right send-off. I mean, the documentary is incredible. You finally get to know this guy that has been hiding himself just for this character. He's the last true, if my father was alive right now, I probably would have watched it with him, because my father got really sour on wrestling in the 90s because of Vince. He hates Vince McMahon Jr. My dad's old school, Vince McMahon Sr., Bruno Sammartino, all that stuff. I think my father would have watched it and he would have been like, yeah, man, because he's the last cowboy. He really is. Because no wrestler that is wrestling right now stuck to kayfabe like he did, and the first time he broke kayfabe was a couple years ago when he kissed his wife, he had never done that. So again, I would have been more shocked if he was like, nah, I'm going to go again, and the whole segment with AJ Styles, and as everybody knows, or at least, AJ has been my boy. I was so happy to finally see him in WWE. I didn't really pay attention. I still don't. I keep tabs on indies and the other federations, but I never knew. But I always knew who AJ Styles was. I always knew how wonderful and gifted and talented he was. And, even Michelle McCool saying, well, if you're going to do it one more time, there's nobody better, and it was a good send-off. Like, I know you were super sour about that match when it came out because of the production and stuff like that, but now that you saw the behind the scenes and stuff like that, it was the best way that he could have went out. Because any other match before that was not a good way to retire. And that was his struggle through this whole entire documentary, right? So, he had the crap with Goldberg in Saudi Arabia and all that stuff. And even when he had that tag team match that was really good and that he felt good, and then the AJ Styles thing was approached, he can't top that. And I'm just happy that he's at peace with it. It wasn't a traditional match. I'm sure if it was a traditional match, if COVID wasn't going on, I think we would have still gotten a 4-star match. Like, AJ Styles is just so good and taking care of people. And they said in the documentary, he works better with smaller guys. I mean, hell, they showed a lot of Punk during this last one, which I was shocked about. And like I said, I thought that was the best match that he had up until this string of terrible, terrible things after Brock happening and stuff like that. So I'm happy. He's 55 years old, man. Like, he's been wrestling since he was 20. He's given everything. He gave up, a basketball scholarship. He could have went the other way. And I'm just really happy that I feel that he's at peace with it, and other people might not be. But if you love wrestling and you love The Undertaker, as a true wrestling fan does, and that's why I was mentioning my dad. My dad loved The Undertaker, and my dad thought he was awesome, I remember watching Survivor Series with my father and my brothers. I feel like he's happy. And he's at peace with his career, and he has nothing to be ashamed of. Yeah, he had a couple of strings of bad stuff, but dude, he's 55. What do you want from him? And I think it was the best way for him to go out. So I'm really happy, and I'm glad that it came through this announcement, and it wasn't like, a trick in a match or something, and then he was just gone. He ended it on his own terms, like he said, through the whole entire documentary, and I'm super happy about it.
It's funny you mentioned the Boneyard match, because I started to have a little bit of change of heart, obviously not knowing that would have been his final match. That I did not. I mean, I was not a fan of the production. I just am a more traditional, let's not play games with the special effects and see who can have the coolest special effect and what kind of cool software we got and what kind of cool movie effects we got. I like more of a traditional in-ring match. But yeah, COVID, bam, happened, and given the option between an in-ring, no-fan presentation and the Boneyard match, I'd choose the Boneyard match. I mean, however, if it was in front of 80,000 fans, I still would have chosen the 80,000 fans, given the fact that they are the soul of what makes wrestling work.
And nobody's going to argue that.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, but they had no choice, you know?
Oh, no. And so given the two options, I think they made the right call. And to see how banged up he was during that match, that it wasn't just a bunch of stunts happening, that, you know, there wasn't any crash pads. Undertaker legit, like, got glass in his arm when he busted the window of the car, and he was bumped and bruised, and he said he felt like he had a 45-minute match during that whole the filming of that, which he said wrapped at like 5 a.m. So I mean, even that, when it was heavily produced, made you respect the guy just for you know, no stunt doubles. He did everything by himself, and it was true to the Undertaker character, and how he wrapped 3 characters into one of Mark Calloway, Undertaker, the Dead Man, and the American Badass. And that's what I said going into this. I mean, I think I had you and several other co-hosts on, and we said, hey, it feels like he's 3 in 1. And that's exactly what he ended up telling us in the documentary, which was a pretty cool thing to see, that's exactly what he was trying to do going into this match. And I guess it leaves us with, this is probably his final match, and he said that he's at peace. However, when you read into what he said, now here comes, I guess, some conspiracy theory coming out of me.
Conspiracy theory,
yeah,
Matt.
you're rubbing off. Is that Undertaker said that if Vince needed him in a pinch, that he might consider it, and to never say never. And that's the ultimate slogan in the business. You never say never. And he would come back in a pinch for Vince, maybe. So, given that, I really would not, you know, say definitively and put my life on the line to say that this was his final match and that he is truly done. Because when you look at what's coming up this year, I've said this before, Survivor Series is 5 months away, which means he debuted at Survivor Series 1990. A nice even 30 years comes back. There is no possible way that they get to this Survivor Series and Undertaker's not a part of it. Now, does that mean he has to have a match? No, it doesn't. He could have just a quick one-off, maybe even not even have anything physical happen. He just comes out and gives a nice kind of farewell, and that's that. But he could come out and he could confront somebody, leading to a match that will be his final match at Mania next year. That has always been my thinking for the last year. They cannot go this even 30 years without The Undertaker being a part of SummerSlam, Survivor Series 2020. So I don't know how they get past this, but to me, if this is The Undertaker's final match and this is indeed his true retirement, I'm at peace with it as well. It was sudden. I always believed that they would do this retirement in a way that was promoted heavily for like a year or so. Why would they not want to promote Undertaker's final match? That's how I always felt. Why would they not want it to be known? Hey, everybody, tune in. This is going to be The Undertaker's final match at WrestleMania. Let's tune in and build it and build it. And I think the reason they didn't take that road, and why I don't think they ever will, is because Undertaker truly never knew. And that, what if it's a stinker? Then he needs redemption. And he said it's like a vicious cycle. So to me, if this is it, I'm cool with it. I have no issues with the way that he went out. But to me, I don't know how you go past Survivor Series without the Dead Man in some capacity this year.
I mean, I see your point. I think he is going to show up at Survivor Series. I think he's going to cause an interference and kind of pass the torch to somebody. I don't know who that person is. We've said Bray Wyatt, we've said Aleister Black, somebody who has like that kind of mystique around them. But I don't think I think he's done. I don't think he's coming back for a match. The whole Sting thing is in the toilet, guys. It's not happening. It's past it. And like, even when he was talking about like fighting AJ this year, he was like, man, I would have wished I could have fought with you 15 years ago, but nobody in the WWE wanted to bat an eye at AJ Styles. I mean, AJ Styles, if people don't know their history, was WWE property. He was a WCW wrestler when WCW was bought out. He had a couple matches there, and they just discarded him, And AJ was able to go somewhere else and build his legacy and build that he is, and I'm sorry, and I will fist fight anybody, he is the best wrestler on 2 feet right now. Better than Daniel Bryan. Like, I'm sorry, he is. And for his age, though, too. Like, because AJ's not a young pup anymore, He's, 42? But, like, I know what you're saying about promoting that it's his last match. Nobody knew that Stone Cold Steve Austin's match was his last match, right?
Nobody knew.
Nobody knew.
Only Jim Ross.
And like you would think Stone Cold is at the same level as Undertaker. Maybe Undertaker is a little higher than him, but not by much. You would think the same thing. Austin knew going in that match that was his last match. Those guys are old school. They're humble. They don't think that they need, the fireworks and the rockets or all that stuff. And Stone Cold went out, and then we found out that was it, and I don't think that he could have went out a better way. He went out against The Rock, and that was his arch nemesis. I can't speak again, as usual. And I'm okay with that, too. Do I think that Stone Cold could have came back in the last 10 years after being rested like Edge has been and had another match? Yeah, and Austin said a whole bunch of times he would have, but it had to be the right guy. And the closest I think we ever got was Punk, because they're very, very similar, but it didn't happen. But I'm not mad at him about that. But I just don't think that, like, the Undertaker, now seeing another side of him that you have never seen for 30 years, I don't think he wanted that, dude. I think that, like, kind of like the burden, it's almost a burden of like how much hyped he is to himself, because that's why he's in this vicious cycle. He has to keep like, I got to redeem myself and I can't go out like that for the fans and stuff like that. And I get where you're coming with the promotion side, but like, that's why I brought up Stone Cold. Like, nobody did. You would have thought if Stone Cold was having his last match that it would have been all over everything. And yeah, it was a different time. It's a while ago, things were different. But with everything that's going on with COVID and all this stuff that happened, yeah, would I have loved to see him in front of 80,000 people? Yeah. But I don't want him coming back at WrestleMania and having another match. His streak is already done, like that's like in the wayside. And that was what the WrestleMania point was. And then him possibly not having a good match, He had a good solid thing with AJ, and AJ protected him, and AJ made him look like a star, and like, not that the Undertaker needs to look like a star, but I'm really glad that AJ was available and there for it to be AJ, because who else could it have been? He had his match with Reigns. He had his match with Wyatt. I mean, hell, he had his match with Punk. He lost the streak to Lesnar. There was nobody else that I think that is on that level. And AJ, he's still new, but like, he's still got that old school touch in him. Now, this is like, again, like I said, Last Cowboy. You're never, and they said it there, you're never going to have somebody like him again. And I think that if he's being a smart man and he's thinking about his family, and he seems like a super intelligent dude, and I know he loves this business, I think he's good, and I think he'll make an appearance at Survivor Series, but I don't think it's going to be a build-up for anything else. I think at this point, I think he's been laid to bed. He knows his body, and he's okay with it, and he had a good showing, and I know you didn't like it at first, but everybody loved that match. Everybody loved it, thought it was cool. It was awesome. The whole unholy trinity is what he called it, and I thought that was really cool. And that's what The Undertaker did. I said to you before we started talking, I watched a documentary episode this morning, and on WWE Network, I was like, after I watched it, I was like, man, I kind of want to watch like Undertaker matches, but like from the beginning, remember the matches that I watched when I was a kid that I don't remember anymore. And they have a 7-hour Best of WWE, Best of Undertaker program that's hosted by Corey Graves, and they slowly go through his career and stuff like that, and they show his big matches and his evolving. And they kept saying how he evolved. Undertaker always changed his character. He knew in the early 2000s that the dead man gimmick, that like a mortician who's a wrestler, wasn't working, and he changed and he became the American Badass. He evolved and went on his way out. He became the three of his personas into one person. I don't think there could be a better send-off than that. And that's why I said I'm not shocked. I'm happy. I'm happy because watching him sometimes in the last 5 years, I was so scared. I can't even imagine what Michelle McCool, who was very vocal during the whole documentary, what she went through watching him go through these things and the possibility that he could get super hurt. I mean, he doesn't remember the Brock Lesnar match. Goldberg almost killed him, and F Goldberg, I'm not cursing, but F him, because it's just, that guy overrated. To have a match in Saudi Arabia and for him to go out and the Undertaker gets paralyzed at 52 years old? I'm good, dude. I don't want to see him come back. I haven't wanted to see him come back for a while, but I get his redemption and I get his passion and I know what he is to that business. And I don't think he could have went out on a better note. And, things happen for a reason. Fate, kismet. I think this is how it was supposed to go. Would have been better if it would have been in front of 80,000 people, but they made the best of it, dude. And I'm so happy that they did that and not in an empty arena as they've been doing with everything. Because Randy Orton and Edge could have been massive, and it kind of faltered because there was no crowd there for a pop.
Stay right there. The WWE podcast will return after this quick break.
So we all know how important it is today to stay healthy and safe. And right now there's a solution out there for both individuals and businesses to keep the air around you safe, to be able to create an ionic shield around your body that eliminates viruses, bacteria, airborne pollutants. It's essentially the new face mask. Again, it eliminates 99.9% of viruses, bacteria, and germs in the air and on all surfaces that uses a patented technology. And recent FDA tests have proved this purifier that will eliminate 99.9% of allergens like dust, mold spores, pet dander, bacteria, and it's called Fresh Air. So how do you get this? Where do you get it? It's at Vollara.com, VOLLARA.com/aerodynamics. That's VOLLARA.com/aerodynamics, all one word. Or you can call Tony Durham himself, 571-260-8641. That's 571-260-8641. Guys, this is not the time to be messing around with your health, and this product has been proven by the FDA to work. Keep your air safe and clean, whether you're a business owner or you want to use it for your personal space. Head on over to Vollara.com/aerodynamics or call directly at 571-260-8641. Looking for one of the most unique topics for podcasts? Then check out the Daily Check-In podcast. It's about mental health and entrepreneurship. It's at dailycheckinpodcast.com. That's dailycheckinpodcast.com. Also, you can find them on Instagram at instagram.com/dailycheckinpodcast. They've done over 250 episodes, and the podcast is exactly that. It is a podcast done daily where the host checks in and provides value to your day. There are also some great interviews that are done, notably the one that just happened on June 18th. And some of the things they discussed were how do people create wealth on the internet, being YouTube influencers. So it's a great podcast for those that are concerned about mental health and if you have an entrepreneurial spirit. Not to mention, the audio quality is really, really high, and it feels like he's talking just to you. And that's a very, very intangible quality to have as a podcast host. And I would really recommend that you guys check this out. It's the Daily Check-In Podcast. You can find them at dailycheckinpodcast.com.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Yeah, the crowd thing, I mean, we've said it many, many times, has really, really, really hurt certain returns and things like that. And I think Edge has been the number one culprit, followed very closely by Drew McIntyre, who has been really robbed of those moments. And agreed. I mean, The Undertaker not being in front of 80,000 people, maybe it just doesn't feel right to me. I mean, I'm at peace with it because Undertaker's at peace with it, so that's fine. I mean, it's his decision, not mine. But I feel like I've always envisioned that moment of The Undertaker's retirement being being in front of a massive stadium audience where they all give him a standing ovation, whether he wins or loses the match, and he puts his hat and coat down like he did after Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 33, and he just kind of puts his hand up, and it's a send-off that way, and, you know, that's how I've always envisioned it, not just this pre-produced cinematic version of a match, which, I mean, I you know, in retrospect of what it meant to him, and it could be his final match, I'm not as hateful of it as I was when I originally saw it. But I've always been building that moment in my mind of what it could be, and this was not that at all. And I guess maybe that's why I'm having trouble accepting that this could truly be his final match, when the Survivor Series kind of, the story writes itself, you know. But I guess I'll split the difference. My thought is, at Survivor Series, that they either promote an appearance or he makes one just to give a chokeslam and a tombstone and maybe a quick message of, you know, this is it, thank you. I don't know, something along those lines of kind of like a I'm definitely done type of message. So I do think he'll probably give his signature moves, give his greatest hits, and be done with the in-ring competition. That's my thought. So I don't believe that there will be a match, given that this documentary has pretty much closed the door on the whole thing. Like, this has pretty much said, the door is closed, I didn't padlock it, but it's open about this much if Vince ever needs me in a pinch. I mean, that really was the telling thing. It wasn't Vince or him saying, I'm done, you know, even if Vince calls me, I have to just say no, I'm at peace with everything. He said if Vince needs him, those two are super close in a way that I don't think any of us envisioned before watching this documentary of the relationship between Vince and Taker, and even Vince getting almost teary-eyed trying to talk about his relationship with Undertaker. I mean, we had no idea that it was this strong. And I think the biggest, coolest thing about this whole documentary, to be honest, is the backstage conversations that we were able to hear, like we're not supposed to hear, but we're here, and like how the wrestlers talk with each other and the producers, and how Undertaker speaks with Vince and how he speaks with the other wrestlers. To me, that was the best part of it. Yes, I love Michelle McCool's commentary and Undertaker sitting in his chair, presumably at his home, about, you know, going through each stage of this documentary. That's always great. But when you hear things that maybe you think you shouldn't hear, that it's kind of like you're being a fly on the wall for these conversations backstage of which fans have zero access to, that was the coolest part to me.
Yeah, and like I agree with you. I also think that, like, you know, I think he'll have a Survivor Series appearance, and I think maybe that's when you get your thing. If people keep doing the stuff that they're doing and being smart about this virus, shots at whoever's not, if we do our right stuff, hopefully there will be a crowd for Survivor Series, and he'll get his moment where he gets to take his final bow. But, you know, that's on us. Because if it's still empty stadiums and at Survivor Series, you know, it might just be like an off-screen appearance, you know. But if we got people there, they're going to give him that. They're going to give him that. He's probably getting the Hall of Fame next year. But if we want that, we need to keep doing these things so there is a crowd for Survivor Series, because I do believe that if there is a crowd for Survivor Series, he's going to have an interference in a match and he's going to pass the torch or whatever, or just like you said, Matt, do his greatest hits, lay his stuff in the ring, and he will get that standing ovation that he probably should have gotten at WrestleMania. But it depends on us, honestly. We're in charge of Undertaker getting his, like, you know, needed and deserved goodbye. So that's where I think that's it. I understand that you think the door is open a little. It always is. Never say never. Like I said, I mean, CM Punk might be back in the WWE in 2 years. You don't know. You know, he also says never say never. Everybody says it in the business. But I think that as far as Mark Calloway goes, I think he was okay with the AJ Styles match, and I thought it was great. I mean, he busted his ass and got hurt, and you know, they made it the best that it could be, and I don't think it was hokey at all. I thought it played into his persona. I mean, I was just, like I said, I've been watching these old matches, that 7-hour thing that they have there, and like some of the stuff that they did were super hokey with The Undertaker. From the green mist coming out of the urn in the coffin with Yokozuna and all that stuff, it worked. It worked, and I think it was a really, really good end of chapter to his story.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we could talk about this for the entire show just because of
Yes.
how damn good it was. I mean, it's like you said, Mary, and we said this, and I will continue to say, if you are a wrestling fan, you will watch this. If you are not a wrestling fan, you will not. I don't know why you're listening to the show, but you wouldn't watch this. I mean, I just don't understand why any wrestling fan would not want to see this. It is easily and by far the best documentary that I've seen wrestling related, like bar none. I mean, it's so well produced. Time flies by. I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm like, an hour and 5 minutes went by already. I mean, it just goes so damn quick. Each one is about 50 minutes. The last one is a little over an hour. So this is over 5 hours of content that they produce, and it felt like I watched for 30 minutes. It is so good, and you get such an introspect into just his love, his passion for the business, his struggle with letting go, his redemption when he has a terrible match, the injuries, the surgeries, the struggle to get into shape that all of us fans have no idea, and we just take for granted that everyone's always in shape and everyone's always ready. That's not the case. And with Mark Calloway, he prominently said during his final chapter here that, I'm 55 years old. I have to do 20 times the work to get a quarter of the results. That's so true because Father Time, right? So you just get a whole new respect for how much time and effort and mental energy and physical energy it takes to get The Undertaker to a point, where, especially at this point in his life, to get it to an acceptable point. And we all, and myself included, guilty as charged, I have at times said, Undertaker, he just needs to step away. This is, it's getting worse. And he was on a bad slide there for a while. I had a string of bad matches. And, seeing this documentary, I kind of feel bad saying that, given all the time and effort and everything else he put into it, and his, time away from his family to train and everything else, away from his daughter. Like, all of these things that you just are blind to, that we all just, as wrestling fans, selfishly go and kind of ungratefully say, he's done, he's washed up, this is embarrassing, this is terrible, I don't want to watch Undertaker anymore. And now you kind of look back and you're like, oh boy, I was kind of an idiot, right? Like, I feel like a fool for saying these things but we didn't see these things. We don't know these things. We're blind and ignorant to these things that are just going on behind the scenes that we just don't know because we're fans. So it was eye-opening. Guys, see it.
I mean, and I also think that it was, like, super special because, like, I keep saying, like, he is the last of a generation. Like, that, the last of a generation they were doing with Triple H and all those guys. Like, yeah, kind of, but, like, Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Kane were still wrestling, and they were always breaking kayfabe, you know what I mean? So I think the documentary is so good and one of the best. Like you said, it's probably the best thing that I ever did because, like, this guy has been in secret for 30 years. Like, he loved this thing so much, old guard, that he refused to not be in character. So it's the first time that you're seeing the man behind the legend, Like, he is a living legend. There will, nobody will ever be him. I was watching it today when they said that, and they had everybody commentating about him and stuff like that, and his friends, and they were like, nobody will ever, be the Undertaker. There will never, ever, 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 and I totally 100% agree about it. There will be nobody ever like him. You could say that about Shawn Michaels, but you got AJ Styles. They're similar, you know what I mean? You can pick things that they're kind of alike. But with him, to me, and this is going to be an obscure reference that Matt's probably not going to get when I say it, he's the Pete Steele of wrestling. Pete Steele is the lead singer for Type O Negative. This guy was a singer. He has passed away. Nobody's ever going to be able to replace him. You will never get a guy who sounds like him, sings like him, looks like him, and he was a foreboding dude like Taker. He was like 6'8", solid mass muscle guy, and he just had this huge baritone voice. And I remember getting a fight with somebody one day, and they were like, oh, well, why didn't they just replace him after he died and kept the band going? The band kept going, but they changed their name, and they became another band. But I was like, how dare you? There's nobody who's going to be Pete Steele. There's nobody who's going to be The Undertaker. There are just some people that can't be replaced. And it's like when a band loses a singer and they replace him, I get annoyed if it doesn't work. And a lot of the times it doesn't work. Like, I didn't want to see Chris Cornell singing with Rage Against the Machine. I wanted to see Chris Cornell with Soundgarden, and I wanted to see Zach De La Rocca with Rage Against the Machine. I get annoyed about stuff like that. But, like, when it comes to, like, typo, nobody could ever do that. Like, it's impossible. So, like, there's never, ever, 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 ever going to be The Undertaker. There's not, Aleister Black could come close, Bray Wyatt could come close with his supernatural stuff. They will never be him. And I think it's, like, this documentary was so special, again, because this guy was the last of a dying breed in wrestling since kayfabe has been broken, and we finally got to see the guy behind the character, behind the legend, and that's why it's so poignant. And I think even if you're not a wrestling fan, if you're a casual wrestling fan, I just think if you like documentaries, you should watch this thing, because it gets you to understand. If you don't understand wrestling, it makes you see it through a guy who explains to you why he loves wrestling and every sacrifice that he made for that business. And, it's one of our only things that America has that's their own, like comics and pro baseball and whatever. It's wrestling. And again, we could talk about this all night. It was amazing. And there's never, ever, ever going to be another Mark Calloway ever.
Nor should there be. Yeah. And I could see Undertaker maybe from here on out, assuming he's done in the ring and there's no more matches, that he does do what maybe Michaels is doing and be a coach at the Performance Center and or doing some kind of backstage role where he helps out the younger talent. Or maybe he just pops up on another documentary going over some of his favorite matches, because they didn't dive into anything really prior to WrestleMania 26, 27. They touched 25 a little bit with Michaels and Undertaker, which is still, to me, the best match I've ever seen. And so they didn't really go back, though. So I'd like to hear him talk in depth about, like, the first ever Hell in a Cell, when he returned as the Dead Man at Judgment Day in 2000, like, how he went back to the Dead Man, like certain milestones or big matches in his career. So I'm sure we have a ton more content to come from The Undertaker. I don't think he's just going to go into a black hole and we're never going to hear from him again. Yeah. But as far as the in-ring stuff, probably yes. But I think we have a whole lot more now that he has broken kayfabe and the floodgates are open for that after being really dammed up for 30 years, that now all of that can be washed under the bridge and he can just go and do whatever he wants and do podcasts, which he's done several of now. Like I said, he can do a lot of documentaries and favorite matches and sit and watch his own matches and commentate on matches of his own and things like that. There's so much you can do with him now that you're just scratching the surface. So I think there's a ton more to come on Undertaker. Maybe he starts his own podcast. Who the hell knows? I mean, so it's funny. You say Peter Steele. As you were saying that, I Googled it to try to impress you, just to see, because I have like no clue, obviously. So you were saying that, I'm like, I'm going to Google it quick. And like, when you said, oh, you don't know who he is, I'm going to be like, actually, and I'll like read Wikipedia or something. So yeah, I don't know. All right, let's move on. I mean, this is, again, we keep saying it could take up the whole show, and it seems like it's going to, because it's so damn good.
One more quick note, though. I was trying to think about it, because like everybody always is, and I always forget this, and then every time I watch something with The Undertaker, I'm reminded, because everybody's like, what's your favorite match? What's your favorite match of all time? And it's a really hard thing to pick, especially if you've been watching wrestling as long as I have, and you have. My favorite match is Undertaker Jeff Hardy. Ladder
that's
match.
Right. You make yourself famous.
It is one of the best matches you will ever see, because Jeff Hardy, again, him working with smaller dudes, man, that match is so good. It's so good. And they showed a clip of it during the last chapter, and it was like, there it is. That's my favorite match. And I always forget that it's my favorite match, because you wouldn't think like Undertaker, Jeff Hardy, right? Even though Jeff Hardy is a bona fide star and he always has been, but like, it just seems minuscule when you could be like, oh, well, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, or Undertaker Triple H, or Undertaker Stone Cold, Undertaker Kane, Mankind. And it's just like, no, my favorite match is Undertaker's Jeff Hardy. It's a great match, and if you haven't seen it, and it was a Raw. It wasn't even
a Raw. That's right. Yep.
It was a main event in the Raw, and it was so good, and it was such a good story, and they killed each other, man. And just to see the respect that Undertaker had for Hardy after the match, it made the whole entire thing. So if you haven't seen that match, go back and watch it. It's killer. If you like Jeff Hardy, I mean, how could you not? He's one of the greatest in-ring performers, despite his crappy past and stuff like that. As a high flyer, it's definitely a match that needs to go back and get watched.
Yeah, not too many people have that as their favorite match, but it had so much emotion. I remember Jim Ross, who really makes anything better. He was like, "Come on, kid, make yourself famous," and he's screaming, and that famous line, he's crawling up the ladder. Oh yeah, I mean, agreed. If somebody needs to watch an Undertaker match, it was a Raw, like you said, nonetheless. That was awesome. So, just so much to really unpack with the Undertaker. It is you could do a whole podcast like daily about the man. So, okay, sexual assault allegations. Most notably, Matt Riddle. So now this is again, we have to remember that these are allegations. Just because someone makes an allegation, obviously, does not mean it's true. Jeff Gallagher seems to have fallen victim to WWE's latest release based on those sexual allegations, so he's gone. I would assume there's much more evidence with him, or they just maybe used it as an excuse and we're probably going to let him go anyway. We'll never know, but we'll assume that they had evidence and it wasn't going anywhere, and they just said, okay, bye, we're distancing ourselves from you. Matt Riddle, obviously a much higher guy on the totem pole of stardom in WWE, is now being accused of sexual misconduct and abuse by Candy Cartwright, who's an indie wrestler. And Matt Riddle has already lawyered up, and they said he has put a statement out there saying that Candy Cartwright has been stalking the family, and that basically counterpunched on Candy Cartwright. And it's hard to really see which one is right. I mean, the thing is, it's kind of like watching somebody who's been arrested on TV. You automatically assume they're guilty, but obviously truth will be told and we'll eventually find out. So it's hard not to look at him and go, guilty, right? Because we're kind of taught to go when a woman says you've done X and X and Y, that, it sometimes gets and often gets proven right. So you automatically assume that person's guilty. I don't know in this case. We'll have to wait and see. It's kind of telling that WWE this past week on SmackDown allowed Matt Riddle to not only debut, but debut in the opening segment against AJ Styles and then win against AJ Styles. So I don't know if it's WWE just thinking that this whole thing's going to blow over and there's nothing there, or if they're really taking a gamble and going, Matt, you're debuting here. If there's something that comes up, you're gone, and we're going to take a chance on you. I don't know. I don't know which one. How do you feel about all these allegations that are coming out lately?
So I know this is a wrestling podcast, but this is, we were talking heavy about this before we got started recording. It's a heavy subject, guys. Like you said, allegations, we're supposed to be, innocent until proven guilty in this country. We know that system fails a lot. My thing is that a floodgate's been open, because it's not just like one here or two here. This is multiple allegations from women, and it's mostly the indie scene. It hasn't really gotten into the major, federations. But some of these people have, risen to WWE or TNA or ROH or AEW. The magnitude of one person finally saying something and it just floodgating is kind of like the Me Too movement, like where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know, listen, as a woman, I believe people who, accuse. I also do know that there are terrible women trying to get ahead and make false accusations and then make it bad for the people that are actually victims. So my thing with the Jack Gallagher and the Riddle thing, I feel like both of the evidence against them is equal. releasing Gallagher, and I'm not saying, release Riddle. I'm just saying maybe you should have like suspended him or like postponed his debut. I found it really, really weird that they went through with it. Even if these things are false and Matt Riddle is completely innocent, I think after the hellstorm that has been on Twitter for the last 2 days, and it's been hard to go on Twitter. I mean, politics aside, it's a cesspool right now anyway. But to see multiple, like so many wrestlers just getting called out, and wrestlers that have been called out before, like I said, it's heavy indie. I think it's an industry where in the indies, when you're just trying to make it, I think that men take advantage of situations. No offense to your species, and I always call you a species because men are very different than women. They do take advantage of the weaker, supposedly weaker, sex, and it's just baffling to me. Like I can't ignore, and I'm not trying to say these guys are innocent or they're guilty. It's just very hard for me to ignore once that floodgate opens, as it's opened in the last couple of days. Hell, there have been allegations against Velveteen Dream, aka Patrick Clark, from guys, that are younger people and stuff like that. It's a really, really bad light on the industry right now, and it's another light of what women, if they're in the wrestling business or not, deal with on an everyday basis. And that's why I was saying me and Matt got into a heavy discussion before this. Every girl has had some kind of situation. It might have not been rape. It might have not been sexual assault. I've been blessed and very safe, and I've been surrounded by good men my whole entire life that this has not unfortunately happened to me. But I can tell you, I can count on 2 hands plus of my female friends that this has happened to. And me personally being put in uncomfortable situations, or where guys have been forceful with me thinking that they could, and then they get, as I told Matt, Mary F. and Grater, I'm a barracuda, I'm a pit bull, I will jump down your throat if you make me feel uncomfortable. And I have been blessed that I'm aggressive enough that people have not tried to follow through with me about that stuff. But, guys don't understand. Girls are raised to be timid and be quiet, and if they open their mouth, they are labeled a bitch or they're labeled crazy or stuff like that. So majority of girls don't do what I do, where I get in the guy's face. I don't care if he's 6'7", I get you in your face. They just kind of laugh it off and think if they're compliant that it'll go away, and then they're taken advantage of. And it's just, I'm really, really disappointed in the industry right now that it seems like it's a breeding ground on the independents, because girls are trying to become wrestlers like Charlotte and their idols and stuff like that, and guys think that they can take advantage of it. So it's just really disheartening to me. And again, as a woman, once this comes up, you remember all the other stuff. Like it doesn't matter if it happened to you or not. You remember other people talking about it. You remember your friends telling you in confinement that something bad happened to them and stuff like that. So it's just a crappy situation, because I'm not saying all these guys, but I'm going to say a majority of them are. They're guilty of taking advantage of situations because they feel like they have the right, and they're the stronger species to do this. And it just sucks, because wrestling is something that I love really so much. And I said to you earlier, I never wanted to be a wrestler, but there was a point when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a valet, or a manager or something like that. And to think that, like, maybe if I went into this industry and I started working the indie scene on the Jersey circuit, because I did think about it for a while, I knew people that this could happen to me. If I wasn't in a setting protected around my guy friends who will knock a MFer out the second they look at me wrong. It just sucks. All of it effing sucks. That's basically what I gotta say about it.
I appreciate the very, very transparent attempt not to curse. Thank you for That's awesome. It's tough, because there are certainly some bad guys out there, bad guys and girls. I mean, it happens on the other side too, but in this case, it's primarily with women accusing some of the men in WWE about things that they have possibly done. And, with the floodgates seem to be open on this, I'd love to know the actual percentage that are truthful. Because the thing is, if you start just suspending anybody that's been accused willy-nilly, then you're setting a precedent for these people who can now just have the power of, just by accusing somebody of ruining their lives or ruining their careers just based on an accusation of, you sexually assaulted me back in 2005. Well, if WWE takes action just based on a single word or a single tweet or a single whatever, then again, you are allowing people that may be very badly motivated to ruin somebody's life or career because of a simple accusation. And so I'm with WWE for not suspending Riddle if the evidence all points to Riddle is probably going to be acquitted of the whole thing and it turns out she is just a psychopath. We don't know. And I'm looking at WWE's statement here. They said, regarding these types of things, individuals are responsible for their own personal actions. WWE has zero tolerance for matters involving domestic violence, child abuse, and sexual assault. Here's the key. Upon arrest for such misconduct, WWE talent will be immediately suspended. Upon conviction for such misconduct, WWE will the talent will be immediately terminated. WWE's ability to fine, suspend, or terminate a talent will not be, however, limited to or compromised in any matter in the event of incontrovertible evidence of such illegal misconduct is presented to WWE. So that tells me that they don't have, or she doesn't have, a really strong case against Matt Riddle. I mean, we're just talking about Matt Riddle. It tells me that Jack Gallagher probably had some pretty bad evidence against him. So they have shown us their own policy and their own procedures for what these types of things do or what it could do to talent. So again, we're speaking about Matt Riddle only, and there's a bunch more. But with Matt Riddle, it seems as if this woman has nothing other than just her word against his right now. And WWE's like, well, this person has no prior incidents, which is also, I think, needs to be taken into consideration. If Matt Riddle had a previous accusation that turned out to be true, and then he paid his penance and was brought back, and WWE was able to move on or whatever it may be, then this may be a little bit telling. But the fact that this is the first time we're hearing anything about Matt Riddle is kind of like, well, he has no prior, right? I mean, doesn't mean it can't happen, but I would give him the benefit of the doubt until true evidence is shown. Otherwise, you're just giving people anonymously power to accuse anybody of whatever they want, and suddenly everything in their life is ruined. So to me, it's about evidence, not so much just, oh, well, so-and-so did that. Well, prove it, right? So I like the evidence-based stuff, so there you go.
I mean, I agree with that too. Listen, I agree with the fact. Listen, women are horrible species sometimes. This is similar to, girls faking pregnancies to keep guys, and I don't like those girls because I think that's really, really crappy. Girls do sometimes, if they don't get their way. I mean, not me, but I know girls that, do vindictive stuff to get back because they didn't get their way. And it's not right. And like I said, it makes the people that are actual victims look bad, and harder for them to get the justice or be heard and stuff like that. As far as, the evidence thing, I get where you're coming from, but I think that suspending somebody until you got all the facts straight isn't going to hurt their career if they come out clean from it. I'm not saying to terminate somebody if they're accused. I think that's BS. I think that look, what really is going on right now, with these accusations. And Matt, you're probably right. She might be a crazy, crazy woman. But I just think it was in poor taste because of all the whirlwind that was going on Twitter. And like I said, it's mostly indie wrestlers that are being accused of this. But as being the top company in wrestling, I think that his debut at least should have been postponed. Even if they didn't suspend him, I just feel like it's in bad taste because we don't know. You're absolutely right. But like the girls that are accusing people of this stuff that happens is kind of just pissing on them. You know, it's like, oh, well, you guys aren't taking me seriously. I guess this guy's going to debut for a wrestling match. You don't even have to suspend him. Just push it back. I mean, look what happened with Lars, that guy who's gone. You know, they did that with him. And now he's gone, and he ended up being like a white supremacist or something like that. That's fine, but I just don't think that it doesn't even have to be Matt Riddle. It could have been anybody. I just think that like with everything with the crap storm that was going on, I think it was in poor taste for him to debut. I just do. And
it was
like,
risky. Yeah.
You know, I'm not necessarily saying he should have been suspended. I'm just saying they should have been like, okay, hold up, we're going to postpone your stuff for a week. Like, that's all you need to do, you know, because that means that they're taking it seriously. I feel like they are taking it seriously, but just being like, okay, well, we're going to throw Jack Gallagher out, like, and I don't know what the evidence is about, like, if they had more evidence. We don't know if that was true either. Just for them to be like, okay, well, you're a sacrificial lamb, but Riddle's our star. You're not as big as a star as him. We're going to push through and do it, you know? Same crap they did with Del Rio. Like, let's be honest. Like, they were pushing Del Rio forever, and we all know that Del Rio was a drug addict and an abuser, and a domestic abuser. Like, the crap that he did with Paige, we all knew it. I mean, he didn't come back after that, but there were, like, you know, some shady stuff going on around Del Rio when he was with the WWE, and they just let it go. And now, look, he's in jail. He got arrested for domestic abuse. So I just feel like you don't want to fire him, you don't want to suspend him, fine. But, like, if you have a guy who's getting called up to the main roster right now, maybe delay it. Just maybe delay it for the cards to play out, you know?
Del Rio, I mean, yeah, he's just a bad guy. Even when he was on TV, I was like, there's something more. Like, you could just feel him, not as a heel, just like as a person. As a human being,
so
I'm like,
skeezy.
there's and it's not like skeezy in the good heel way, oh, he's a great character.
Right.
No. You could feel it through the screen, like something's not right with this guy. You can tell he's got a temper, like a true temper, of which, I mean, there has been incidents backstage that have been reported about him slapping a producer, something about a joke that he made, or something. I don't know. I mean, I remember that vaguely. And, like, the things with Paige, you could just feel him. He's a bad guy. Like, that's different than being a heel character. Now, again, yeah, the thing is with WWE, they are so concerned about public perception. They're so worried about what the public vision of them is, and their whole philosophy of what their sponsors think and everything else. That, especially given today's extremely volatile and sensitive political environment, that if there was any scraps of evidence whatsoever against Matt Riddle, that they would have been like, let's delay it. I agree. And the thing is, though, look, how long are you supposed to hold off, right? How long are you supposed to wait on this debut or suspend somebody in light of evidence coming to fruition? Like, because what if this goes to trial? What if this drags on for months? Are you supposed to just hold somebody's career in the air for months and months until this eventually pans out? And even if it leads to their acquittal and, oh, great, nothing happened. Well, then that's weeks or months or possibly longer that person is not in the ring, not getting the push that they maybe would have gotten at that particular time. It really, I think, messes with that individual's career and personal life. Like, what if, I don't know, honestly, if Matt Riddle has a wife or kids. I'm going to assume not.
He does, yeah.
So I'm wondering what they're dealing with and thinking right now. Like, a simple accusation can really F up somebody's life, especially if it's done with bad motivations, or if somebody has a personal vendetta. It does hurt the other victims that are truly victims that are coming forth, but you do have people that jump on the bandwagon and go, ooh, this is a thing now. I have a problem with so-and-so, and they just jump on it because they think that they're going to immediately be believed, and they know it's going to come out in public. They know it's going to be a big deal. They know it's going to run the internet websites. They know that it's going to F up this person's career, at least that's their goal. And there are badly motivated people. So the idea of just suspending somebody in light of no evidence, I have problems with that because how long could that go forever? I mean, like, what do you wait until a trial is done or the charges are dropped? That could take forever. So, I mean, looking at WWE's policy, I totally agree. I mean, I would agree that you don't suspend somebody in light of no evidence. Like, if you have evidence and they're arrested, totally agree. Yes, suspend them, or get ahead of it. If you see evidence that things are just not looking right, suspend them before the arrest happens. I totally agree. So there must be something that WWE knows that we don't, of no evidence against Matt Riddle. There's probably, I would hope, that there is nothing there. And if Matt Riddle does come out and he's been hiding evidence or whatever, then he's a bad guy and he should be suspended too. But you got to have cut and dry somewhere. You can't just suspend or hold off on every person that gets accused if they have no prior record based on somebody's just hearsay. Like, that's hard, and I understand, especially that women that have been victimized, it's awful and it's terrible, and there are women that feel like they can't come forward or that they shouldn't, and when somebody does, then they feel like they have the courage to do that. But again, with somebody in the public eye like Matt Riddle or other wrestlers, and that the independent wrestlers know that, or even a fan knows that they can accuse a wrestler of X or Y or Z, and it's going to be a big story, and they're going to mess up that person's career because they have a personal vendetta, then it's a lot of power that people have, and they know they have that power. And if you don't like somebody and you have a personal vendetta, a bad breakup, whatever, you can use that. And I'm not saying that's what happens here, but we have to think about it.
No, and I agree. I agree with every point you're saying. Like I said, there are tons of bad chicks out there that do jump on the bandwagon and accuse people of stuff when other people who have actually been victimized come forward. And you're right. You know, what's the timeline? I just thought, like, I'm not saying, like, you know, hold off his debut for a month. I just think that Friday probably shouldn't have been the debut day for him. That's all I'm saying. I think they should have pushed it back a week, see, like, what's going on. I'm not saying to suspend him, but, like, I mean, it's the same thing, but it's not the same token. I mean, how many times have the Usos been arrested for drunk driving and they're still wrestling? Have they gotten suspended? Like, seriously. I mean, drunk driving and being raped or sexual assault are two completely different atmospheres. They're both really, really terrible, you know? But the Usos have been arrested 80 zillion times, and they never get, like, they'll, like, not just be on TV for, like, a month or so, and then they're back. Jeff Hardy, too. Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, like, and there's proof of these things, you know? They are driving drunk and hurting themselves, and they're drug addicts, and, like, obviously they need help, and they need to get the help they're doing, and that's fine. And I'm happy that the WWE provides those services for these people, even people that aren't with the company anymore. But, like, it's a double-edged sword. It's BS, because it's like you got proof that both of the Usos on multiple times have gotten caught drunk driving. Some of them got in accidents. Jeff Hardy, same thing. And it's just like, okay, well, we're just going to keep them off TV, and they're not getting suspended. You know, like, they only get suspended if there's a P-test violation. This is, like, the only time that those people get suspended is, like, when they piss dirty. And they should be. But, you know, after the fourth time that Jey Uso or whichever one got, like, arrested for DUI, don't you think they should have been publicly suspended? It's kind of the same thing, you know? Like I said, I don't think that Riddle should have been suspended. I just think that it was in poor taste that he debuted Friday. It should have been pushed back a week. That's all I'm saying. I get what you're saying about ruining careers and gives it power, but at the same time, like, there has to be, like, consequences somewhat for, like, an accusation, and, like, because if you don't take these accusations seriously, like I said, the people that are actually victimized, they don't get heard, and then they don't come forward because they see something like, okay, well, maybe Matt Riddle did this, maybe he didn't, but he's wrestling on TV this week. Like, I just think the timing was really bad, you know? Like, I totally agree with what you're saying, but it's hypocritical of them doing it with, like I said, multiple WWE superstars have been arrested for drunk driving and drug use and all that stuff. And it doesn't seem like they get suspended or whatever. They just kind of go away. And then when it blows over, they're back on TV. And maybe that's Usos clout because of their family. Same thing with Nia Jax injuring a whole bunch of people and continuously still being on television. It's just, there's, apples and oranges, it's hypocritical. That's all I'm saying. Again, my point is that, like, I agree with you. Suspending him outright, no, okay, fine. But I don't think he should have debuted on Friday. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it is a little bit suspicious that it is so close in timing of the accusation and then them. I mean, they could have easily edited this out of SmackDown and put something else in its place, and they decided to move forward, which could have just been their direct message to this woman that apparently, again, we don't know the evidence. We haven't seen anything, but
we're taking it seriously.
We are, but they could have easily said, yeah, let's hold off a week. But to me, the way I read this is WWE going in and sending a message to this woman that we are not going to be taking you seriously because of a lack of evidence. Again, we don't know anything, but if there is anything, any kind of evidence at all, they should have not debuted him. It's hard to talk about something that we don't see, but if there's anything, bad job by WWE. If there's anything there that, like, is questionable, or maybe Matt Riddle's giving, an explanation that just isn't adding up or whatever, I would definitely hold off on the debut. But assuming that there's nothing, there's zero, and it looks like there's nothing, and this woman does indeed have a track record of stalking the family, if that's true, and it is in the police records, I would probably lean on Matt Riddle's side and say, hey, yeah, this woman seems kind of nuts. There is no evidence. She has not presented any. Let's move forward with your debut. But it is on the optics of it are bad. Like, and with WWE being so concerned about how they look in the public eye, with all of these things coming out, we're both in the agreement that evidence should be used as the primary factor for somebody being suspended or terminated. Absolutely. But it just looks bad on WWE's part, even if there is no evidence, for them to come out and put Matt Riddle as a debut star, beat AJ Styles in probably the biggest segment of the show, and yet these allegations are still out there. It's just too close in timing. It just looks bad. Even if there's nothing going on the surface, you're like, what? Wait, what? Why are they having this guy in the show? Even if this is pending and this woman's just a nut job, why is this still happening? I agree. I'm with you on the optics. It just looks bad.
It looks bad. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. It's just a bad taste, Like, I'm not saying he's guilty or not. Like we said, we don't know anything. I just think that, like, his debut could have been held off a week.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying. They could just push it back a week.
I agree. And I think maybe they really are, if it indeed comes out that Riddle is guilty or there's sufficient evidence, then look out. I mean, WWE is going to be in a firestorm.
Because they would have been protecting themselves. Because if it does come out that, like, he did do these things, right, then it's going to be like, oh, well, you just put this guy on TV willy-nilly. It's just like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're right. They're so concerned about their public image, and then they can Jack Gallagher right away, and that's fine, whatever. They might have more evidence about that. But, like, because there's just been such a storm, like, so much stuff is on the internet right now about all this stuff happening and all these chicks coming out, and then you got one guy, like, I know he was supposed to debut. I know, like, Matt Riddle has been, like, bound to come to the main roster. Just, like, it kind of hurts him, too. Like, I feel like it was kind of clouded by his debut. Like, it made, like, him debuting and all this chatter about what might have happened, it kind of crapped on his debut. Like, you want to protect him, too, right? Just push it back a week. That's it. I just think the Riddle thing was just poorly handled with this debut.
They're putting all the eggs in a basket here and really, really either taking everything that Matt Riddle says at face value and that there is no evidence and maybe there is a true record of this woman stalking the family and maybe other prior things. Maybe that's all true. But boy, are they really, really just putting all their eggs in one basket, because, like I said, imagine if in a week or two it comes out that Riddle did this and this, and it's indisputable to all this, and they are going to look awful. It would probably be a semi-national story of WWE knowingly putting somebody out there who had charges or at least accusations against him the same week that he had those accusations, debuting him on SmackDown. It will look awful. So they are really.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have hurt him in the long run. It wouldn't have hurt WWE or Riddle if they pushed it back a week. But if they went through the debut, and if like you just said, everything you just said, if it comes out that it's true, it's going to make the company look bad. And like I said, I think it dampened his debut. I mean, yeah, he beat AJ Styles and like, whoa, but like
in the back of your mind, yeah.
I was watching it the whole time and I'm just like, why do they have him debuting? Like, why wouldn't they just like give him a week and be like, look, dude, we're gonna set up for next week. Put it on next show.
They must have thought that this is not going to be resolved in a week. If it's just he said, she said, this thing is not going to be done in a week. I mean, again, it comes down to, well, how long is this going to take? How long do we just keep him off TV? I mean, like, that's where they probably said, like, well, this is not going to be resolved quickly, so let's just get him out there. Doesn't look like there's any substantial physical evidence against him. This woman has a bad prior record of being a nut job. Let's just put her out there, because what if it is 3 weeks, 4 weeks? It's he said, she said, and it just goes nowhere. But the thing is, though, I guess the argument against that would be, if there's nothing out there, then there's nothing out there. This thing at least will take a week to calm down. At least it'll be out of your mind in a week.
That's my point.
The perception,
that's my point. That's what I'm saying. I understand about like timeline, like how, like, a lot of stuff can happen in a week, but like it wasn't going to hurt them. Like they could have just debuted him next week.
Yeah.
And like at least it would have blown over a little bit, and the accusations would have still been there, and they wouldn't have been holding off on a debut. But like a week's not going to hurt him. And it's not going to work the company. It was just bad timing, poor taste.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. I'll give you that. It looks like it's a little bit tone deaf. It looks like they're really, really rolling the dice with Riddle that he indeed is 100% absolved of this thing. Let's hope so, because if it's not, they're going to have a huge backlash coming to them. So, okay, well, outside of those accusations, we actually have some wrestling to get to.
Yeah.
On the show, and so outside of Riddle's whole accusations, how did you enjoy the match with AJ Styles? Did you enjoy his debut? Was it a little underwhelming? I mean, yes, again, all the cloud aside, did you feel like he belonged? Did you enjoy the match? How do you think it all went with AJ?
It was okay. I don't know. AJ just won the Intercontinental title. I just don't feel like. I mean, I know he was debuting, they're trying to build him up and stuff, but like to just beat the newly crowned IC champ, like out the gate. I mean, not that Riddle isn't talented or anything, and that he's super talented and stuff. I mean, maybe I'm biased because I'm such a huge AJ Styles fan. I was kind of like, okay. I was shocked, But I mean, again, unfortunately it was kind of hard to watch the match because it was just clouded. I just couldn't understand why he was wrestling, but he did good. I don't know how he's such a unique character, bro, whatever thing that like I just don't know in general how his character is gonna, feel on the main roster, because how it goes with NXT people. Sometimes their stuff doesn't translate to the main roster. I think he'll be fine. But I don't have like a bad or a good, like it was just like, okay, all right, cool. I mean, they're pushing him. I mean, putting him against AJ Styles. I just don't understand why he didn't fight against anybody else.
Yeah, I don't. That was very interesting that they debuted him against essentially one of the top guys, if not the top guy. You can make an argument that he's the top guy on SmackDown, and having him beat AJ Styles. That was again, it sends kind of a double message that not only is this a guy that we trust, it's a guy that we're going to have beat the top guy to send a real message to and put him in contention for the IC title, which is essentially what they did. And so the match itself was fine. It was, I think Riddle was a little bit overhyped at first. There were a couple of botches, but I think that he has that look, and those that haven't watched him in NXT probably look at this guy like he kind of looks like this kind of like D-bag surfer dude. Like he kind of has like, yeah, bro, like he kind of looks like that stereotypical kind of surfer stoner dude who's kind of hanging out on the beach. Like, he looks like that guy. He's got that look. He just gives that vibe. So it's interesting that they have him as a babyface, and he's been babyface for quite some time, but it's he could easily go heel. I mean, I look at him and just kind of like Aleister Black, I'm like, this guy, why is he babyface? He could like, his character screams heel. But the match itself was fine. Again, the win was kind of not surprising because, to be honest, anybody that debuts when they get called up in the main roster or they debut from another company or industry or whatever, they just, by pro wrestling rules, you're going to win. I mean, that's just the way it is. Whenever you debut, you're going to win. But a big win against AJ Styles, who is coming off of a really good match from last week with Daniel Bryan being the new Intercontinental Champion. They put a ton of effort in. I love the tournament. I love the way that they positioned the belt, making it feel like it had a ton of meaning. And having AJ as champion, I'm loving it so far. Making Daniel Bryan put the strap around his waist. I'm not sure why Daniel Bryan agreed to do that, because he's just such a nice guy. I don't know why Daniel Bryan did that. But it looks like AJ Styles is probably going to be IC champion for a while. I love AJ Styles as champion. I mean, I'm glad that they did something with him beyond just you're the guy that got buried by Taker at WrestleMania, and then, oh yeah, by the way, your two best friends just got fired by WWE. They actually seem like they have a plan for AJ. It seems to build the show around him, even more so than Braun Strowman, who's the Universal Champion.
Ugh, I don't even want to talk
I know.
about that.
We'll get there.
We'll get there, but no, I agree with everything you're saying. I just, again, I think they could have pulled somebody else for Riddle's debut, and like what you just said, like trying to make the Intercontinental title important. But WWE has like this track record of like newly crowned champions losing. Like, that's what like made me mad. Yeah, they had this huge tournament around the IC title. AJ Styles won. I totally am elevated about that. Like, good call. Love Daniel Bryan, but like, AJ needs to get every title in that company before he retires. And again, you know, AJ's not a young chicken. Like, we just said this and stuff. But why would you put him again? Like, you're right. The debut guy always wins, you know? So, like, why would you, like, put your newly crowned IC champ, who is a top guy in the company, obviously, at this point, you know? I mean, even more so after watching that Undertaker documentary. They could have just picked somebody else who's, like, you know, a decent guy on the roster that doesn't have a title for Riddle to beat. I hate when they take champions and they win and then they just start losing. Like, it's stupid. Like, that was his first match after winning the title. Why is IC champ losing? Right?
Yeah, I don't know why they did. I mean, again, it's just I think they sent a huge message, again, trying to take away the sexual assault allegation, pretending that didn't exist. They're sending a huge message to the fans that this is going to be a big-time player. At least that's what I read into it is, not only is he beating AJ Styles, he's in the first segment with AJ Styles, cutting a promo against AJ Styles. They sent the message to us that this is going to be a big-time player. We see him as a big-time player. Probably in the long run, I would hope that he doesn't get any kind of championship in the next 6 months, but that remains to be seen. So I think it's more of sending a message, as WWE loves to do. They sent a message to us that this is going to be a game time player. That's how I read it, at least. That this is a guy that you need to keep your eye on.
Yeah, I agree. It just was weird. I just feel like he could have had a debut match not against a champion.
I agree. It probably shouldn't. I would not have put him against AJ Styles. Hell no. I mean, to me, that would be a match that you build to. It would not be a match that you debut against. And I hope that this is. It's already been done. It's over. I would hope from here on out that they keep AJ and Riddle apart. I don't know if that's a story they told, because now apparently he may be in contention for the IC title because he beat the champion. I would just move away from it. I would say he had a great debut match last week, and then get him into a program with somebody else immediately. I think that AJ and Bryan have a little bit left based on what I saw on SmackDown, that they could go one more pay-per-view where AJ retains. That's fine. But keep him, I think, away from the IC title, away from AJ Styles, But my guess is it's probably some kind of triple threat for the IC title at Extreme Rules with Daniel Bryan, AJ, and Matt Riddle. That's my guess. But I mean, we'll see. So
I mean, I don't even think they need to do that though. Like you said, I think the story is still there with Bryan. Like Bryan and AJ are so similar with their indie record and their styles and stuff like that. They're two of the best technical wrestlers in the WWE. And Bryan's a proud man, and it just works. I want to see Bryan and Styles go for a while. So that should be the chase.
Yep.
With Bryan eventually getting the title off of AJ. I don't think that you need to put like a new gunshot rookie into that scene. Like you said, he should have built up to it. Again, not like debut him against like a jobber or anything like that, but like debut him against like a solid mid card and stuff, and have him win. I just felt like it was too rushed. And I don't know, like you said, I don't know if that was because of the allegations, but like I think this was probably premeditated before the allegations came out, because the allegations came out Thursday and SmackDown was on Friday, Right. So.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that Daniel Bryan and AJ, like I said, and you said, they have a lot of length left. I said one pay-per-view, but I'm only saying one pay-per-view because I'm envisioning somebody going against AJ after Bryan. And I don't know if Bryan's going to be the ultimate destination to be the one to take the belt off of him. I don't know. I don't even know who could be IC champion right now other than AJ Styles. I think given how much they put into the tournament, given how much they really told us how much that belt means, that AJ is going to be champion for a while. I mean, like 3-4 months at least. And I like that. I hope AJ holds it. Honestly, I hope he holds it for 6+ months. I think there's a lot to do there, a lot to gain from that with AJ as champion. I think he still has something left to give, and he could work a match with anybody on the roster, and WWE knows it. And so to me, 6 months plus. So moving on to in the interest of time. On SmackDown, Bray Wyatt's throwback. I got to get to this. Bray Wyatt had a little bit of a 2015 throwback to his swamp cult leader type of gimmick of speaking riddles with a light bulb above his head. And it seemed to really bother Braun Strowman. I know that you're not a fan of Braun Strowman as Universal Champion. Neither am I. Braun Strowman seems very just one-dimensional, and he seems like, just kind of like the guy that we don't know anything about. We know he can tip big vehicles over. We know that he's, apparently the Strowman Express. I don't know who came up with that in a production meeting. I mean, honestly, I don't know who comes up with these things. It's just, and I know they have to make money off T-shirts, and the Monster Among Men has certainly run its course. I get it, but boy, I don't know who came up with that. But anyway, Braun Strowman doesn't do it for me as champion. I don't hate him as champion. I just go, I'm just like, I don't feel anything for him because I don't know him. The character's as deep as my piece of paper here. There's nothing there other than just, we know he's a big man. He can speak in a scary voice. He tips big things over. He has a temper. He can run around the ring and plow people over. Like, we don't know anything about him. And now Bray Wyatt comes out and he says, I created you and I'm going to destroy you. And then he does his swamp cult leader gimmick and goes back to that. I don't know if this is a sign of things to come. I hope he's not somehow going back to the Wyatt family gimmick. I would think not. I hope it's a one-off. But it certainly seemed to get in the head of Braun Strowman, more so than any of his other mind games he's tried with Bray Wyatt as of late.
So quickly, I don't have a problem with Braun Strowman being champ. It's how he's been booked, and they missed that train, a couple years ago when he was super hot. And then they had him in this, he got forced into that match, at WrestleMania because Roman Reigns is not around, so he just kind of won the title. And just the storylines that he's been in, like, Slime with Miz and Morrison. Like, he's feuding with Miz and Morrison, doing pranks on them. And this is where I was telling you, like, I've been watching stuff, but I've been turning stuff off too. Like, I turned it off. And it's not because I don't like Miz or Morrison either. Listen, we've talked about it. Miz should be by himself before Morrison came back. Should have been in the world title picture for finally, and earned it for a while when he was like getting super hot and stuff like that. Not the premature stuff that he had with Cena when he had the title and stuff like that. Miz finally got to the point that I felt he deserved to be in the title picture. And then you got a returning Morrison, and they don't know what to do with Morrison, so they just stick Morrison back in where he was 7 years ago or whenever the hell he left, right? You know, they don't change his music. He looks exactly the same. Not that they're not good together and stuff like that, but it just felt kind of like Miz got screwed because they didn't know what to do with Morrison, right? So now they have him feuding with Braun Strowman, and they're pulling pranks and sliming, backstage interviewers. And I'm just like grown. Because Strowman could be like this really cool, dominant beast champ like Brock Lesnar. I mean, he's got the look and stuff. He can be one-dimensional, but they screwed the pooch on it already. So, and then they have him in ridiculous storylines. So as far as him getting back into a thing with Bray, and Bray going back to, the Wyatt family persona, that's smart. It's history. It's not disregarding the past like they have done so many times in the past. Like WWE hates history and bringing up old feuds and stuff that'll work, that will get people intrigued. So I think it's cool that, Bray is not just like staying with Bray Wyatt or, The Fiend at this point, and he's going back to his history, and this is the guy. I mean, he was doing it with Cena too during the Firefly Funhouse stuff, going back into trying to get redemption for all the times he was screwed over. Again, Bray Wyatt, another casualty of WWE screwing the pooch on characters, It's kind of like he's going back into his history and trying to redeem himself for all the times that he was screwed when he was this really cool cult character in NXT, and then they got brought up to the main roster and Vinced it, you know what I mean? He McMahoned it, McMahonigans, whatever. I don't know if it's a one-off. He might stay in that character for this feud, but I kind of like somebody said on Twitter the other day when I was watching it, the three faces of Wyatt, like the three faces of fear. I'm okay with him having another, him bringing back that character. That character was great. It's just, it was booking and how they just screwed the pooch on it. It makes sense for the Strowman character. That is how Strowman came on the main roster, and I think Wyatt's getting the title back. And this is his, and he's adapting to it. You could also see that this has Wyatt's hand on it with him having a say in, how they're booking and stuff like that, because I don't think they would have had him revert to his old persona, creative alone, thinking about that. And even if they did, they probably would have gotten it shot down by Vince. So it was probably Bray being like, hey, well, this makes sense. Let me do this. And he's been so good since he's returned after that terrible, terrible, terrible run as the Wyatt family leader. Bray's had to do a lot of redemption and get himself over again, and he's done a hell of a job doing it. So I don't hate it. I think maybe he has a rotating three persona, and just like we just said, the Undertaker now has three personas, the Unholy Trinity. Maybe Wyatt has a third face, and it's like, I like it.
Kind of like the three faces of Foley with Dude Love, Mankind, and
Yep.
Cactus Jack.
Yep.
And this could be the three levels of Bray Wyatt, where there's Bray Wyatt, there's the cult leader, and then there's the Fiend. And maybe that's where they're going, where the Bray Wyatt was defeated by Braun Strowman, and then Bray Wyatt, the cult leader, is going to be defeated by Braun Strowman, and then the Fiend finally beats Braun Strowman at, say, SummerSlam. I mean, I could see where this is leading. This is 2 of 3. And if this is the second version of Wyatt, and the second strongest, I guess, is how we're going to perceive it, then this is where Braun Strowman barely beats Wyatt, and then the Fiend finally comes out. Because we all assumed, and I did too, that this was immediately going to the Fiend versus Braun Strowman, that it wasn't going to be any kind of second stop, and now we're getting a second stop, and I'm fine with it. If this is where they're going, yeah, that cult leader that WWE gave us for many years with the Wyatt family, he was always intriguing, very magnetic. You watched when he was on the screen, he had a very unique entrance, but he talked in riddles of which I don't need to sit here and try to, decode what you're saying to me. I shouldn't have to do that. And I know that, some people say, oh, well, just because you don't want to think about something doesn't mean it's not worth, decrypting. Well, I'm watching wrestling, right? I'm not sitting here reading, the Da Vinci Code. I want to be just kind of mindless entertainment. That's what wrestling is. And I don't mean that in a bad way. We all want to be entertained. We all want to get emotionally invested, but I don't want to have to sit here and have to really, really think hard about what you're saying. Like, I shouldn't have to. And that's what I felt like Bray Wyatt's promos were for so long, and it was just the same thing over and over. Him back in a smoky room, and he'd talk about, whatever he talks about, and then he tells us to follow the buzzards and then run. And that's just been the formula of which I could not get behind, because there's just not a lot there. At least in a very cohesive, easy to understand way. And so I'm fine with if he resurrects this Bray Wyatt cult leader, swamp master character, fine. Maybe he'll do it in a way that makes a little more sense, that he's easier to follow. And I mean, some people are, oh, you're simple-minded. But again, we watch wrestling because it's easy to follow. And when it's not, we get turned off. We're like, this is confusing. We don't want to be confused by wrestling. At least I don't. So I'm okay with this. I think when I said it's a one-off, now that you've been talking, I think maybe this is the 3 faces of Bray Wyatt, and this is phase 2 of 3, and then we finally get the Fiend at SummerSlam. Maybe they wanted to get to SummerSlam with Braun Strowman versus the Fiend, and I think that's probably where we will see Bray Wyatt recapture the Universal Championship at SummerSlam. I don't think he'll do it with this swamp cult leader gimmick that he had for so long.
I mean, I get what you're saying with, like, the riddles and stuff, but, like, I also think that, like, not like your argument about, like, simple-minded stuff and, like, not wanting to pay attention. I think that you would have been way more into Bray Wyatt and his riddle stuff, because, like, dude, I liked it at first. I thought it was really cool. It was how they booked him. They turned him into a joke. And that's why that gimmick got worn and it got aggravating, and because it wasn't believable anymore. When he was hot and he was doing it in NXT, it was believable, and you were more into it and you were more intrigued because he was running shot through everybody. But then, he kidnapped Daniel Bryan, and Daniel Bryan, like, just shows up on the show. I used to make the joke all the time. I was like, you're the worst kidnapper ever. And the crap with Kane, like, all that stuff, like, it just... They watered him down. They had the House of Horrors match with Randy Orton.
Oh, that's right.
And it just became like, it was just like, dude, I'm scarier than you. Like, I'm supposed to believe that you're some weird Southern dude that's a cult leader. And, like, that stuff freaks me out. Like, the real life people, it freaks me out. And I'm intrigued by them. I want to know how they tick, But when you pussify them, for lack of a better term, you have them constantly getting defeated, like even with the Undertaker. Like, he lost to the Undertaker after the Undertaker lost his streak, and that was not a very good match. Like, they just were just like, well, Vince didn't get him, so it's just like, whatever. If he would have been booked seriously and they made him scary like he was in NXT, he wasn't scared. Like, he lost that intrigue because they just buried him. Bray Wyatt, his first however many years after he made his debut, that was a joke, and it got worse and worse and worse. And that's why when he came back with this whole new thing, it was refreshing, because it was like, they had a good thing going. But WWE just was like, meh, well, no, and they just jobbed him out to everybody. And he was supposed to be this scary, creepy leader who had all these disciples, and he didn't, because he wasn't scary, because he was losing all the time, and because he kidnapped people and they would just miraculously show up. Like, when he kidnapped Daniel Bryan should have been off of TV for 3 weeks, and then they should have showed Daniel Bryan escaping somehow. No, Daniel Bryan just shows up on Raw the next week and he's fine.
That's right, yeah.
Like, how am I supposed to believe that this guy is like this crazy, scary cult leader when he can't even do a proper kidnapping? And I'm all about, like, suspension of disbelief. Like, that's fine. Like, it's like how you approach sci-fi shows or supernatural shows. But, if you try to do a show that's not supernatural and then put supernatural elements into it, I'm referencing Riverdale right now. Anybody who watches Riverdale still, you're stupid. Like, it's not believable, and you turn it off. But if they had established that this was a universe of it, it goes. So I think, like I said, Bray Wyatt, I really like Bray Wyatt. I always have. But when I got tired of him, and I was sick of hearing him babbling nonsense, is because I couldn't buy into it anymore, because he was constantly losing and making a mockery in everything that he was doing. So, like I said, he's had a hell of a time trying to build himself back up. And the Fiend and the Bray Wyatt character, the normal one, the happy kid show host, is great. But this might be a redemption story for the Bray Wyatt that got screwed, because that's like the only thing you could say about him. He got screwed. It wasn't lack of talent. It wasn't lack of originality or anything like that. It was something that you could get behind, but they just screwed the pooch on him so bad. So this is the only thing that makes sense with, Strowman, if they're trying to get into a history thing. For once, like I said, WWE has a problem with bringing up old storylines that made sense. We've had a couple discussions, I can't remember them right now, about guys that are, feuding and them not bringing up something that was super important before. Because why? Why would you do that? Because the wrestling fan is an idiot. Not like you were saying that somehow they were doing, but you're saying simple-minded. They're not thinking about that. They're not thinking about the past. No, I am. I like history for a character. So I think that's why you kind of have a bad skew about Wyatt in your mind. He never had a fair shot on the main roster.
Yeah, and I think that is the number one reason I got so turned off. Not at the beginning. We were all intrigued at the beginning, but he just would talk a good game. You kind of understand some of what he said sometimes, and most of the time you're just like, at first you're just so enamored, you're like, I don't even care if I understand, because he's so intriguing and it's so unique on the roster right now. I don't need to understand. But the problem was, the number one thing, overriding thing, that he just continued to lose the big match. He would get some nice, some momentum on Raw, and then the pay-per-view would come around and he'd lose. WrestleMania comes around, he loses. He lost to Taker. He lost to John Cena. Bray Wyatt losing was the number one reason you just go, okay, well, why am I listening to him anymore if he's not going to follow through? Why do I care about this character? Clearly he's telling me things that he's not going to be able to deliver, so it's just a bunch of, promo to cut a promo, and I don't care about this character anymore because you've given me no reason to care about it. So, to me, yes, the number one heel in this whole thing is the booking. It's the creative on Bray Wyatt. It's not the Bray Wyatt character per se. And maybe the actual content of the promos, again, could be probably scaled down to a 8th grade level, please. But at the same time, I can appreciate what he was trying to do with that character, using different terms, speaking in ways that are unique, of having you trying to think about what he's saying in a way that is not the typical wrestling promo. I can appreciate all of that, but when it comes down to it and you get down to brass tacks and the chips are down and you lose the match, and not just once but many times over a long period of time, fans tune out. I'm trying to think about when we were talking about this. The John Cena match was with the stupid urn in the corner, right? With the smoke, or not the urn, the lantern, the smoke coming out. Yep.
And then, all that stuff. It was just so hokey, man. And then he still loses. And you're just all right, well, if you're giving me this hokey crap, at least let the guy win, He never won. And that's the thing. That character was great. And nobody can do what Bray Wyatt does on that roster. He was unique and he was setting himself apart from everybody, and that's why I liked him, man. He was intriguing. It was not, like you said, same crap, different day, different wrestler, insert wrestler here, blah, 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 blah. He was working to set himself apart from the rest, and that was fine. But you can't have a scary character like that, or perceived scary character, cult leader, brainwasher, whatever, and have him lose every time. It just doesn't work. Imagine if they did that to Undertaker when he first debuted.
Yeah, imagine.
Yeah. It's we've always compared Bray Wyatt and Undertaker because, like I said, supernatural elements, creepy stuff like that. Like, you got this dude who's almost 7 foot, and he's got, like, crazy red hair, and he's a mortician. He's a mortician from the West. He's dressing like an old school West guy, and he doesn't speak, and he walks really slowly, and he rises up, and his power is in the urn. If he lost, he always won. Undertaker always won when he first debuted, right? If he lost every big match, that gimmick would have never gotten over. Because that's the ultimate, Undertaker is the ultimate suspension of disbelief. Just like when you were saying, oh man, he made fire rise out of the house during the AJ Styles match. I believed it. Undertaker's been doing that crap for years. But it would have never gotten over if the Undertaker lost every pay-per-view and every match and whatever. Like, do you see what I'm saying? So just imagine if the Undertaker lost every big pay-per-view or every match when he was rolling, when he first debuted in 1990, would The Undertaker be where The Undertaker is right now?
I mean, no. The answer is no. I mean, I can understand a couple of losses here and there, but I can't even, honestly, in my brain, I cannot even think about one big Bray Wyatt win as the cult leader. I can't. Somebody name it.
Please, Twitter, tweet at us, because I cannot remember one big match that Bray Wyatt won as the cult leader. I don't. Not one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm suspended permanently from Twitter, apparently, so I can't see it, but hey.
You still are suspended.
Yeah.
We can talk about that.
I guess it's permanent, because what I tried to do was create another account and just start that new account from scratch. And apparently Twitter sent me an email, and they banned that account as well. It was under a different phone number. I actually used my wife's phone number to create the account, and I put in my normal information, and within 3 hours, that account was deleted because they said that I was trying to circumvent a permanently suspended account. So, F you, Twitter.
And they still haven't told you why you were permanently suspended?
They said some kind of, like, manipulation terms or whatever they have, because I don't know what the F I did. If they had a customer service line, I would be all over that, but they don't. So I have to deal with their, emails, which they take 4 weeks to respond. So, yeah, it's been a pain in the neck. So I guess I'm just done with Twitter, which is really pissing me off. But yeah, so
we got to get to the bottoms of that. I'll go after them.
I want Twitter. I mean, if somebody has a direct line to their customer service,
I'm going to investigate this.
I'm serious. I don't know. I mean, the only thing I could think of, because I didn't put anything derogatory, I didn't put anything offensive, at least all I talk about is wrestling mostly, is like at the beginning when I had the account, which is what a lot of people do, I unfollow and follow a ton of people, right? Like, I follow a bunch of people related to wrestling, and then sometimes they'll follow me back, which I guess just inflates your follower count unfairly. But I don't understand how that's unfair, given the fact that it's a choice to follow somebody. It's not like they automatically follow you. So it's the only thing I can think about. They have something called churn rate, where I mass unfollow and mass follow people. But outside of that, I mean, I've had the account for 9 years, so I don't know.
That's really weird, because hell, like, my account should have been suspended like a whole times over, because I don't go after people, but I say like some stuff on there. I wouldn't, but that's really weird. I'll investigate. Mary's on the case.
Please. God, please. Okay. Well, I think we've talked about Bray Wyatt here at length. I know there were some other topics we want to get to, and I want to get to that with just the time we have left. And I want to toss to you, because I know you wanted to talk about it, and that is Orton and Edge at the pay-per-view, and also Orton and Christian, with Flair doing his heel turn and low-blowing Christian for Orton to just punt his head off. So I'll toss it to you for both of those. Go ahead.
Okay, so we had talked the last time we were on here, and we were, complaining about how you can't say something's the greatest match ever before it happens, because, like, that's not how it works. Like, the match happens, and you go, oh my God, that's the greatest match ever. So, like, I feel for, like, Edge and Orton, because they had a lot of pressure put on them, and CM Punk, my boy, shouts, had said something like that. He was like, that's an immense amount of pressure to put on somebody to be like, oh, you're having the greatest wrestling match ever. Also saw Orton go out after somebody. Orton's Twitter, Orton does not give an F, man. Like, he's so legacy, like, tenure. Like, some kid was like, I heard Backlash is gonna suck. And, like, Orton went after him, and he's like, it hasn't even happened. It's a week away, you effing mark. Like, which was funny. I was dying about it. And, like, but, you know, Punk said that's a lot of pressure to put on two people. And, like, those are two of the greatest of all time. And they're both solid workers. I mean, Orton's by far, like, Orton's never been injured. Like, really, like, I can't remember Orton being out for an extended time other than his personal choosing because he's royalty, you know? So, you know, I didn't have any expectations going into the match just because it was like, that's kind of weird for you to say this, but the match was awesome. I mean, they delivered. Was it the greatest wrestling match of all time? Probably not. But it was really up there. I mean, Edge looked great. I mean, so, and the story and just the working and the injuries, and then, like, it was old school wrestling. They were milking, you know, working arms and necks and all that stuff. I really, really liked it. My thing was, like, I don't know, like, we've been saying that, like, during this thing, this is the time for them to take risks, and they really haven't taken any risks, WWE. But, like, man, was I surprised when he punted his head, man. They've been teasing that move coming back for years, and obviously it was banned after the Benoit stuff with concussions and all that stuff, and they hinted at it a couple of times. But when Orton actually kicked him, I went, holy S. I was like, oh my God, they brought it back. And then he did it the next day on Raw to Christian. So the punt's back, man. And it's a cruel move, but man, we feel for Edge right now because, like, his return has gotten squashed by this COVID thing and the crowd being behind him. But I feel for Orton too, man, because Orton right now, in my personal opinion, and somebody can come and fight at me, he's doing the best work of his career.
No question. Oh, yeah.
No, and, like, the punt was the icing on the cake because that was when Orton was really nasty and sick. And I wasn't watching wrestling at the time. I had to go back and watch all that stuff with Triple H and Stephanie and all that stuff. But that was when he was doing, like, really nasty stuff, and everybody was saying that was, like, the best. Like, no, like, his promos are just spot on, and he's like all the best of Orton finally, like, rolled up into one. It's not that Orton's ever been bad. Orton's just, like, you know, there was that joke a couple years ago, like, Orton's wearing pants and he doesn't wear pants, and he had blue pants, and then calling him Randall and stuff like that. Like, it's just everything that he's always been really good at has been rolled into one. And just the reaction that he would have gotten when he punted his head, man, like, he's the best villain right now, I think, in WWE.
It's very interesting to see a motivated Randy Orton for the first time in about 10 years.
Yeah.
When Randy Orton's motivated, it's on a level that nobody can touch. I'm sorry. Randy Orton is on a level of his own, of just being an awesome heel. He shows you that, yeah, I'm capable of doing this, but I don't do it that often. I mean, and Triple H has said it, and Edge has said it in his promos leading up to WrestleMania, that at Orton's average, he's better than most at their best. It is so true with Orton just basically not giving a damn. We've said it. I've said it. Many podcasts have said it. The general thinking has been that Orton just kind of goes through the motions, that he's just kind of the guy that just goes and almost can do it in his sleep, and he's still better than most people when they're at their best. And that is just, it's so crazy to have that much talent and be able to perform that way when you're not even trying. So now that we're seeing Randy Orton motivated, it's like it's breathed new life into Randy Orton. It's not just kind of this legacy star that comes out, that's cool, oh, we get an RKO, great, we pop, we leave, and everyone's happy. This is a guy that is turning himself quickly into WWE's top villain, and is doing it in a way that is making me legitimately angry at the character. And I'm not saying that as a turn off heat, go away heat, or turn the TV and turn the channel heat. I'm talking about, like, I have not felt hatred for a character in a while. And Orton is making me, a guy that's been watching wrestling for almost a quarter of a century, and watching wrestling and going, I want to see somebody kick his ass. I want to see somebody beat him down. And honestly, we haven't really gotten that, because we had Edge and Orton at WrestleMania, but it was backstage. It didn't feel like it was truly in the spotlight. Yeah, Edge got the concerto, and we thought that was satisfying. I actually would like to see things end in the ring. I want to see Randy Orton get his ass kicked and pinned in the ring. Randy Orton has yet to be pinned by Edge in the ring, or by anybody for that matter, since this Edge program started. And so I feel like I haven't truly got that moment to see Ed or Orton, get his ass kicked and feel satisfied about it, because now we got the match at not Money. I want to say Money in the Bank, a Backlash, where he put up a good fight. It was a very good match. The crowd insertion noise was fine. It was well done. Everybody did their jobs. It was, I think, a 4 out of 5 star match. Everybody put in, I think, just their best effort to truly try to make it the greatest wrestling match ever. And Orton ends up winning the match with the punt, and then ends up punting Christian after Flair turned heel and low blows Christian. And then you get Randy Orton now as this top heel who has taken out 2 of the legacy stars of WWE, the beloved legacy stars of WWE. And it's like, who is going to stand up to Randy Orton? It really has that gap of like, who is going to do this? And could it be Christian? I think it could be. I think he could come back just in time for Extreme Rules, or maybe leading to SummerSlam with Christian and Randy Orton. Randy Orton has been very vocal over the years about Christian being one of his favorite opponents. And if you look at it, their matches together have been awesome. They have really good chemistry. So if Christian's going to come out of retirement truly and have a sanctioned match and recover from the punt and say he's going to, come back to Extreme Rules or SummerSlam, I'm all for it. I think that is a good strategy, given that Edge is his best friend. And as far as Edge's timetable, this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll pass it back to you, is with Edge out, I think this could be the best thing for his career right now, because by the time he returns in 6 to 9 months, it'll be perfect timing for either a Royal Rumble re-debut. How cool would that be if he re-debuts in the Royal Rumble? Or just in time for WrestleMania next year, and it kind of hopefully skips over the rest of this no fan attendance type of environment. He may be really at the best time to come back when things are hopefully back to somewhat of a normalcy with actual fans in the building at 50 or maybe 100% capacity, and he could be back just in time for WrestleMania, and he would be back in time to put a final nail in the coffin with this Randy Orton program. So, to be honest, this could be the best thing that happened to Edge. I know it's a terrible injury, but a triceps injury, 6 to 9 months, it could perfectly time him out to next year.
Yeah, it could. I mean, I'm trying, now that you've been talking about the Christian stuff, Christian's whole slogan, and they're working it right now, is one more match. He's already said that he never really officially retired. He kind of went by the wayside. But Edge was the bigger star in the group. So, but it does make sense for Extreme Rules because, Christian in a ladder match or a TLC match or something like that, that's his wheelhouse, So Christian's always been a solid performer. I think it works. But going back to Orton right now, real quick, what we said, villain. He's not even a heel. He's transcended. He's a villain. He's not even just your run-of-the-mill, top heel and stuff like that. Randy Orton is a villain. He gets under your skin because he's so cocky and he's so pretty and, he's perfectly formed and stuff like that. And like you said, effortlessly. The guy is just so gifted and he's motivated right now. And it seems like he actually cares about the program that he's in. Obviously him and Edge are friends, or this would have never been greenlit and stuff like that. But just, I'm interested. It's the best thing that's going on in the main roster right now, other than Sasha and Bayley, which we might touch on for a second. But and props to them because they got me interested again. Orton's just doing stuff, and that's why, like I said, I feel for him too, because when he's at this level, and I think he's transcended the level that he was, like I said, during the Triple H and Stephanie McMahon stuff when the punt initially debuted. And having Flair out there was just a random thing. And Flair, I don't know if he's been a face just because he's Ric Flair and he's retired and he's super old now and his daughter is, getting handed the keys to the kingdom. Yeah, I guess it was a Flair term, but it's just always, it goes back to that evolution, that camaraderie between Evolution. Those guys always have each other's back. They haven't turned on each other in a while. But when they come into play, it makes sense. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know if Christian is going to be the one to stop him. But it also feels like I hate the Apex Predator version of Orton. I think it's kind of cheesy. I'm thinking of a tweet that was funny that I'll bring up afterwards. I've always liked the legend killer, Randy Orton, and it feels like he's going back to that, right? Because that's when he was super vicious and stuff. And maybe another legend from that time, from the Attitude Era, comes back or is still around maybe and takes Orton out. But Orton's just like a weird cat where, like, you don't know if he's going to lose or not. He doesn't lose a lot, so he's so good at being the bad guy that he always wins, right? I don't know if somebody's going to take him out. And hopefully when Edge comes back from his injury, there will be a crowd and he'll be back, and this doesn't, derail his comeback story. It's unfortunate that it happened, and thank God it wasn't his neck, but it's just this weird, I just want to see where it goes. I don't really have any, notions or thoughts about where it's going. I like that they integrated Christian into it, but like I said, mostly I was just super shocked that he did the kick, man, because that thing's been banned. And I was shocked that they actually did it. And I don't know if they're taking the risk because there's nobody in the crowd right now, or, they finally came to their senses and they're like, hey, this is the most villainous move other than the curb stomp, which, they got rid of for a while and then brought it back. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But I really, really feel at 39 years old, Randy Orton is killing it right now. He's murdering it like he never did, because he's not just top heel. He's the villain. He's the villain of the story. Being a villain is way bigger than being a heel.
I've never heard anyone say that before, but it's true, right? A heel by definition is a villain, but a villain, I think, is a deeper level of a heel. A heel is just somebody that is positioned to be somebody that you're not supposed to like. A true villain is somebody that organically is just a human being you despise. That is just, it's a gut feeling for when you see this person that they are just the worst. And that's how I feel about Randy Orton, and props to him. That's not a slight on his character. I can't give a bigger compliment as a heel than telling that Randy Orton, I just despise him, and at 35 years old, that I still want to see somebody, fake beat him up. I do. I want to see somebody come up and finally put him down and shut him up. But the longer that it goes on, that Randy Orton continues to destroy his opponents and use the punt, the bigger the heat is, the bigger the payoff. So I'm surprised he brought the punt back. He has teased it at WrestleManias prior, but never actually connected. So apparently this move has been re-allowed into the list of acceptable maneuvers, and they're trusting Randy Orton to do it safely, and from everything I've seen, he has done it safely, but still made it look great. And so, yeah, this is the best version of Randy that I've seen. The legend killer Randy Orton, the sick, twisted, tie Stephanie McMahon up to what is it? When he tied her up to the ring ropes and ended up giving her an RKO and then giving her a kiss, and it was just that kind of sick, twisted SOB where he, just does these things that is I can't believe they're allowing him to do this. I love that version of Randy, but I love to hate him. It's not like I'm going to go to the show, if there's ever one that is live again in my area, and cheer him because he's a cool heel. No, this is a true villain, as you put it. He's the true bad guy. He's the guy that you want to see get his ass kicked. He's not a heel that I can get behind of I can see him turning babyface and loving it. No. And it's such a compliment to Randy to be able to turn it up, and he knows he can, but he just hasn't had to, and now he has motivation to do it, and I love everything about this. So any final thoughts on Randy Orton or Edge?
I was just, everything that you're saying I agree with. I'm just happy, like you just mentioned, I feel like this is they finally have been okay, we're never turning Randy Orton face again. We had these discussions before. There are just some people that are supposed to be heels forever, and Randy Orton's always been a wash babyface. The only time it really worked was when Triple H turned on him when he won the title. That was a different Randy Orton, But Randy Orton needs to be the bad guy. He is the villain. The only thing that I could say closest to it, when Punk was doing the stuff after Paul Bearer died with the urn, and they're an Undertaker, and it's been kind of washed. I mean, like I said, I was surprised they showed some of it in the documentary. That was some villainous stuff right there, man. Like, I loved it because I thought it was brilliant. But if you didn't hate Punk at that moment for like just being so disrespectful and just mocking, and Heyman coming out as Bearer, like Bearer just died, you know, it was another level of heel. But like even that with Punk, like you still loved him because like honestly at the time there wasn't really a lot going on in the Federation that was other intriguing. Orton surpassed that because like Punk was always trying to, you know, kind of fight the good fight, even when it was a different animal, I guess. I'm just saying that Orton is like the best villain that I've seen ever in my life, like watching wrestling. Like even like Undertaker when he was super bad and like was crucifying Stephanie. There's something about Orton just because I guess he's so good looking and he has that smirk, you know, and he's just
arrogant,
cocky, and he knows he's third generation legend, and like, you know, he's royalty, he's wrestling royalty, and he's had a bigger career than his father or any of his family had, you know, and I think that comes from him being so good looking. I know I keep saying that Randy Orton's really
a good looking guy.
I mean, he was hotter when he was younger, but he's still a goddamn piece of really hot man. It adds to it, you know what I mean? He knows he can do no wrong because that's who he is. He just thinks he's perfect. He thinks he's God's gift, and it just adds this other level. Punk never felt that way about him, you know what I mean?
And to turn the RKO into a move that we all loved, even when he was the heel before in past years, when he just kind of turned, he's just the generic heel or whatever, we'd still pop for the RKO. Now it's a move that I'm like, I don't want to see him hit because it's against guys that I love, and he's such a nasty SOB that I don't want to see him hit his finish. He's turned the RKO into a move I don't want to see, which is like impossible. Yep. So yeah, it's on every level, and I enjoy seeing him every single week for just what he's going to do or say or whatever it may be. He is just on fire right now, and I hope this continues. His promo work,
yeah. Like I've been like super, because you know he's never been a man of a lot of words, and like you said, it just like he was doing it and he wasn't trying it. Like his promo work right now is like really well thought out, like really well thought out. Like just he like even like the trash talking, like you know when he was talking to Edge and he was, you know, you made me do this, go home to your wife and your kids, and he was doing a Christian. Mm-hmm. It's just he's never been at that level with his promos. And I don't think it's because anybody's ever held him back. Like I said, he's royalty. I'm sure he can do whatever the hell he wants. We've heard stories about Randy Orton as the person and that aren't very great, you know. But it's just, I don't know what it is. He's just like, it's just another level for him. And it's crazy because, like, he's going to be 40 now. He's the same age as me. He's a month younger than me. Like, it's just like, holy crap, you're doing this now. And this guy's been, what, in WWE since 22, 23?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yep, youngest world champion ever. Yeah, until Brock Lesnar came along. He is really the unsung hero of WWE right now. I know a lot of people aren't really talking about Orton. People are looking at Matt Riddle, they're looking at AJ Styles, they're looking at Seth Rollins and all that. But honestly, Randy Orton to me might be the top guy right now in WWE in terms of just believability, in terms of like I want to tune in to see him. Because I want to see what's going to happen next, who's going to try to take him down. Assumingly Christian is probably next. I would assume Christian is probably going to try and probably fail against Randy Orton, and I'm okay with that. But I don't know. It's just interesting to see like what is going to be Randy Orton's path from now until when Edge returns. Who's going to step up? Because ultimately Edge is going to come back. He's going to get his revenge. We'll get our happy moment. He'll get pinned in the ring, and people will lose their minds. And that's great. And I hope they tell that story. And my fantasy booking is that he re-debuts at the Royal Rumble when Randy Orton is clearing the ring and dominating with RKOs, and out comes Edge as the next guy up. And the people are going to lose their minds, and then it leads to Edge and Orton at Mania in 37 in LA. That's my fantasy land. But I don't think Christian's going to be the one to take him down. I really don't. It would make no sense. I think Randy Orton goes on an absolute tear for the next 6 months, and nobody beats him. That's how I would book it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, I think that if there's I don't know who's going to be after Christian, but I feel like it's going to be people that are still kind of around from that era. Like, who knows? John might make an appearance, try to take him out, you know? John might come back and he might take out John because, you know, John Cena hasn't been seen since Mania. I don't think we've seen the last of him. Obviously, he's got his, you know, he's part-timer now and he's doing his thing. But that's that, you know, that's that group. That's that era, you know, and everybody talks about the OVW class that had Orton and Cena and Batista and all those guys that were together. I don't think we're going to see Batista come back, but we might see John come back and John try to take him out. And I think Orton beats John, you know, and that's where I'm saying the legend killer is coming back because at this point, the Attitude Era guys are legends at this point, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and they're a dying breed.
time, you know, like I'm old now. Like, you know, I was watching matches from 97 and I was like, holy crap, you know, but it's that might be the guy. John might come back and try to take him out, you know, because Orton's been running this thing and that doesn't work. And then you just got to figure out the guys that are still, you know, working and that are from that group of people or that time and maybe run shots until Edge comes back and Edge is ultimately the one who puts him down.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how it's going to happen. I think you run out of Attitude Era guys pretty quick. I mean, they're a very sparse group of people.
Well, I'm not saying Attitude Era. I'm saying Ruthless Aggression Era.
Ruthless Aggression, yes. Ruthless Aggression Era. I mean, you could have... I know you can't have Brock. I was going to say Brock, but Brock is going to probably interject himself back in with Drew McIntyre and probably with Lashley. I would think that's going to be... My guess is that's a triple threat with Lashley, Lesnar, and Drew at SummerSlam. That's my guess. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on this before we move on?
No, man. I know we keep talking about stuff because there's some crappy stuff that's going on, but like the good stuff's actually really, really good.
I know it is. Okay. I know you want to get to Bayley and Sasha, and I know you also want to touch on Charlotte. So, floor is yours. Go.
Which one do I do first?
I'll let you surprise me.
Okay. Bayley and Sasha right now I'm super impressed. I am loving, and I can't believe I'm saying this because 7 months ago I was not. Bayley, man, has finally came into her own. I love this role model thing and her yelling at people and just being really loud and obnoxious. And Sasha's playing a good sidekick, but she's not now that they have the titles. Like, they're kind of a team again. She's still going to drop with Sasha eventually. But right now, man, they're on fire. Like, they're the most entertaining thing in the women's division right now because, you know, I made a comment. We were talking about Lashley, and Lashley being with MVP is a really good thing. It works. MVP is playing the Paul Heyman to Bobby Lashley. They finally found him a suitable manager. I like that MVP is trying to recruit the black guys in the Federation and kind of form a stable. I think that will happen. I think it's going to. I don't know who's going to jump ship first. You know, he went over to Apollo Crews. And who was the other person I think that he talked to? There was another one.
I know Apollo Crews comes to mind, but I can't think of it.
There was another. He's working. You know, he's being MVP. I like seeing MVP back. I've always liked him on the mic and stuff like that. Anyway, so that works. But, you know, Lana and Natty were on the screen for 5 minutes together, and I turned it off because it's just like, I love Natalya, but she's terrible. Terrible actress, terrible mic person, and why am I watching this segment with Lana? Like, I still don't understand how Lana hasn't been released. Anyway, side note, but Bayley and Sasha, I'm giving them props right now. I know I was poo-pooing on Bayley and like not liking it. She's been a good champ. Asuka's still getting on her footing. I'm glad that they didn't drop the title to Nia Jax like I thought they were going to with Asuka immediately. That might be because Nia Jax is hurting people again. And honestly, she's almost as bad as Lana on the mic. Like, she starts talking and I'm like, shut up. Like, I turn it off. So that's good. The Charlotte thing, I told you before the show, I was on Facebook and somebody put up a post because we have this ongoing debate about Charlotte being Teflon and her not needing that Rumble win and her not needing the NXT title, and I'm glad that she does not have it now again. Her 67th, Matt, 67th title shot in 7 years tomorrow on Monday Night Raw.
That's
67.
Makes me so angry. Think about this. 67 is like getting a title match for more than 2 months straight every day.
Yep.
Like, and yes, she's had a longer career. She's been in WWE for what, like 5 years, 6 years?
No, it's 7 years.
Seven years.
7 years. She's only, like, dude, she was, what, in NXT for a year or two before she got moved up to the main roster, and she wasn't on the indies. She's NXT bred because she's a Flair, right? Mm-hmm. 67 shots
So
in
that's
7 years.
Rounded to 10 title matches a year. I mean, you get 10 title shots per year, if this stat is true.
And how many times has she been champ already? 10 or 11? 10? 11?
I think it's higher than, yeah, I think it's
it's
over
11
10.
now because I think the NXT win was 11.
Yep.
If we're including NXT titles and stuff. And she's surpassed Trish Stratus, who was 7-time champ and was, longest, had the most championships or whatever. And Trish wrestled for what, 10 years? 12 years? And we saw her from the ground up too, man. And that girl worked to get where she was. And she's still, in my opinion, the greatest of all time. I'm not saying that Flair, when she's done, isn't going to be. I'm not knocking Flair about her talent. Her as a heel, she's just unlikable and she's good at it. But man, this is why I was complaining at the Rumble. And this is why I was complaining when she won the NXT champ. That's ridiculous. I don't even think Roman Reigns has had that many shots.
Yeah. I don't think so either. I bet you put the stats side by side, Roman Reigns would pale in comparison. I think Charlotte's probably got everybody beat. I mean, the fact of the matter is she's like on all brands. She was up until recently. And every time she gets on a brand, she immediately just gets bolted to the championship picture. And this is unfortunately not a Randy Orton heel heat. This is a kind of like Charlotte again heat. It's kind of like I don't necessarily want to see somebody beat her because it's not like I'm emotionally invested in the character enough to want to see somebody beat her anymore. It's kind of just like, can we take a break? Like I want to just take a break from Charlotte or feature somebody else for a long period of time. And I know that they tried to fill the gap with Becky Lynch being gone. Now Charlotte is essentially being brought back, and I think that's why she dropped the title sooner than was probably planned for NXT, so that she could be put back on Raw and she could challenge and be in the title picture once again. And I really believe that is the reason, because of Becky Lynch's pregnancy, probably out another year or so, that they brought Charlotte in to essentially fill that star power that's now gone.
Yeah, it's just, again, I'm not really trying to hate on Charlotte. I really do like Charlotte. I think she's awesome. She's by far the most talented, most athletic girl on the roster, but she just, the reason I brought it up was just going back to our argument. She did not need that NXT title, and she did not need the Rumble win. Shayna Baszler should have won the Rumble. That's it. And Shayna Baszler is where?
She's breaking people's arms, and then she goes away. Yeah.
Yep. Why? You got a super heel. Why?
Nor did Charlotte need to be interjected into the women's main event at WrestleMania. There was no need for that when you had the hottest feud going in the company, period, men or women. You had the hottest feud, and you had to interject Charlotte just because that way you can say Charlotte was in the main event of WrestleMania when it really just poured water on the whole thing and diluted the whole program between Ronda Rousey and Becky. But that's another topic. So.
But here's the thing. Again, when I say these things, I'm not poo-pooing on Charlotte. It's not like she's not good or anything. She's great. It's just, it worries me because it's the same thing that goes on with Nia Jax. Why is Nia Jax interjected into it? Is it because The Rock is her cousin? Or they just want that big woman, in the thing? She's not very good. She's just not. I think they pulled her out of NXT way too quick. and they just wanted a big foreboding woman on the roster, to me, she's just a pretty big girl. That's all Nia Jax is to me. So then it like worries me because I don't know if you watched, I think it was Raw. Yeah, it was Raw. You know how they've been having the NXT talent, you know, on the ringside as their crowd. The Rock Starter is there. The Rock Starter is now signed to NXT. I'm not saying that the Rock Starter isn't going to be a superior athlete and be just as good as Charlotte Flair. But does this mean when she gets to the main roster, she's immediately going to be interjected and then she's going to beat Charlotte Flair's record? Do you get what I'm saying? It's nepotism. It sucks. Like, Charlotte Flair doesn't need that. Just like she was just Charlotte and then they put Flair on the end of her name. It's like McMahon has a hard-on for this stuff, and it's not fair to the other girls who are probably just as talented, and they're not getting their dues. Like, they're not, because they don't have a famous relative. Like, it stinks, you know? Like, I think about, what's her name who's going to be debuting on NXT soon? Mercedes Martinez?
Yes.
Super awesome. Like, I dig her, man. She's great. That woman's been busting her butt for, 20 years on the indies? Is she not going to be, she should, want to interject somebody into the title? Why isn't she, what? But is it going to be because she doesn't have a last name? And that's the thing that worries me. I'm not crapping on Flair's talent. I'm not at all. It's just not fair. Because there are other girls that could be possibly super talented, and it just feels like that's the road they're going, you know? Even though Orton kind of was there, but they never really did it with Orton because I guess his family wasn't that big. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. So, I see the Rock's daughter there, and I'm like, this is cool, man. The Rock's daughter is going to be a wrestler. That is awesome. But then I just well, if she's bad, is she going to just immediately be in the title picture, too?
And do they feel pressure because of the fact that they're a second or third or whatever generation star, that if they don't push this individual, that the talent that they were working with, say The Rock, is he going to, call Vince and say, hey, what the hell's going on? Why is it, I don't know. I don't know if that's how the relationship works with them. I would hope that they're on their own merits, that they are either promoted or demoted. It's not on the bloodline. And unfortunately, when you look at what has happened, a lot of it is bloodline. But to WWE's defense, why would they not want to use that and expose that for business? I kind of would too. I would kind of say, hey, we have a second generation star here to one of the most well-known, most popular, successful pro wrestlers in the history of the business with The Rock and Ric Flair. Why would I not want to expose that? And yes, I don't want them constantly in the title picture. I think that's the thing with Charlotte that you and I are just having problem with, is not her talent. Her promos are a little robotic. There's room for improvement on her promos, but she's improving. Her in-ring absolutely is great. She's super athletic. We all know this. There's nothing wrong with really her fundamentals. It's just the constant need to have her in title pictures, the constant need for it, as if Vince uses her as a safety net of sorts, of just kind of leaning on her to put her in a match. Oh, we need star power. We need star power. Well, how about we build some new stars? That's how this business works. And what better time to do this than during a pandemic when you have record low ratings? Let's try to build new stars so that when they are actually built and you have a foundation, you can bring them into the audience when things return to normal and the audience goes, oh, who's this? What's been going on? There are things you can do now that make sense for when you have a live audience, that it would really benefit you. And I don't know why they just constantly lean on Charlotte. There was a stretch over the last few weeks or month that she was on every single show, interrupting every single main event for the women. And it's why is Charlotte here? I don't need Charlotte interjecting herself into another title opportunity. I don't know. I think she would really benefit from just taking some time or just being kind of sidelined for a while in another story where it's not title related and it's personal for many, many, many months. I don't want to see Charlotte as champion. I could go a year or 2 years without her seeing in a championship picture. And that's not going to happen.
Yeah, but what you're saying, they could have her on Raw every week or whatever, going up against some up and comer being I got something to prove. I got to beat Charlotte Flair. you know, like, and her not have a title. Like, and that could be a feud and, like, getting the best. Like, I thought they were kind of going to go with that with Rhea Ripley because I thought Rhea Ripley was getting called up to the main roster. But, like, you know, Rhea Ripley should have been champ. Like, Rhea Ripley shouldn't have dropped a title to her. Like, it's just stupid. And, like, they did the same thing with Roman, too. And, like, to your, you know, what your statement about, like, oh, well, of course they're going to, you know, why wouldn't they benefit off of it? This is, you know, they're going to use the relationship as a thing. Why wouldn't they want to push him? Everybody knows The Rock. This is The Rock's cousin. Okay, but, like, that whole, you know, the whole debate of, well, when The Rock first debuted, he was Rocky Maivia, and they were trying to, like, base it off his father and his grandfather, and he was a baby face, and he came out in ridiculous clothes, and it was terrible, and everybody hated it, and they were getting force-fed it, and then, you know, the crowd started chanting, "Die, Rocky, die," and then they turned him into The Rock, and now you have the greatest superstar of all time. They could have done the same thing with Roman, and they didn't, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, they could have been like, same thing happened to Roman's cousin, The Rock. You know, they didn't want to, like, accept him either. Let's turn Roman heel. Die, Roman, die. It was almost the same thing. You know, it could have been patterned. It's just, like, stupid decisions where they could work it. Do you know what I'm saying? So it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, but they did eventually, like, take Roman out of the picture for a little bit, you know, and then he got sick and now he's better. But, like, they could have used that same logic, like, okay, well, you know, the same thing happened to Rock. He was getting booed and stuff like that. Like, why don't we try, like, turning him heel, you know? Yeah. And, like we were saying with Charlotte, how about, like, Charlotte getting a personal feud with some chick who's coming up to the roster and trying to make a name for herself? Like, even if it's not the best person, like, hell, I would love to see Liv Morgan go after Charlotte and be like, I'm beating you because I want to be at the top. That's how it used to be. And it's like going back to the Undertaker, you know, documentary, the part where him and when Randy Orton debuted. And Vince got mad at Undertaker for letting Orton, like, get in defense, right? And the Undertaker is like, well, I'm taking care of him because he needs to get over. It's not about me. I'm already over. And now look at where Randy Orton is. And that's why it's, like, such, like, a thing with this whole Undertaker thing coming to an end. That truly is, I think, the last guy that has that mentality. And now until Vince is retired or gone or whatever, it's going to be kind of this crap. Because I don't think that these people have this mentality that the Undertaker had about getting younger guys over, you know?
Yeah, because it's a, you know, well, again, back then, too, it's interesting that he was like that back then, which is even more telling because back then, from everything I've seen, heard, and watched on documentaries and networks and all that kind of thing, it was a very shark-infested water where everyone was looking out for themselves. It was very volatile. It was extremely, like, just tough to work because you knew that everybody was out for themselves. And the business is, to some degree, still like that. But if he was like that back then, that's even more telling to the character of Mark Calaway to be able to, back then, still give up his not give up his spot, but be able to share his knowledge and to be able to give the guy an opportunity to get himself over rather than just always having to hog the spotlight, i.e. the Hulk Hogan who wouldn't job for anybody. I mean, there are guys in this business that are unselfish, and I think Mark Calaway is absolutely one of them. And to your point about Charlotte going back there, Charlotte Flair is honestly kind of in that position. She's a made woman. You said she's Teflon. I say she's Teflon. She could lose the next 30 matches in a row, and probably it would take a week or two to have her, you know, come back. I mean, like, she has earned her spot. She has absolutely earned where she's at to a degree. I mean, yes, she got in the door because of her name, but I think, to be honest, she has earned her keep, and she has improved over the years. But if you bring somebody in as a bloodline, third generation, second generation star, you're immediately telling the audience that they got there because of who they are, not because of their own merits. And while that's probably partially true that they were given an opportunity because of their name, that they didn't necessarily take that opportunity and run with it because of their name, that they have to earn it. And that if you don't earn it, regardless of who you are, you're not going to be able to maintain that spotlight. I mean, WWE would be foolish just to keep somebody in the spotlight simply because of their name. If you give somebody the opportunity because of who they were, whose daughter it is, or whose son it is, I understand that. You're going to use your connections, just as we all do use our connections in our own lives, in our own jobs. Why wouldn't anybody not want to use your connections to get a promotion or to get a job or whatever, or help somebody else get a job? That's just what you do. That's how the world works. But to keep your job or to get promoted within, I mean, that is another issue, because you get presented the opportunity because of who you are, who you may know, but to necessarily keep it is harder. So I guess we're going round in circles here, but with
we are going around in circles.
Yeah,
but just like to wrap it up, but what you just said, I mean, you have that. You have Charlotte Flair, who, yeah, she got in the door because of her name, but proved she was super talented and picked it up really, really quick, and she's made it. And then you have Nia Jax, who, I'm sorry, on the opposite end, who is not The Rock's daughter, but everybody knew when she was coming in, she was The Rock's cousin, and she's part of the Samoan family. And yeah, she's doesn't look like the other girls, like her corny song and stuff like that, and she's beautiful and she's a bigger girl, but, you know, she hasn't taken the ball and proved herself. She has sloppily wrestled and injured multiple people. And it's not like, you know, like even like Alexa Bliss at first, she was kind of like in the ring, but, you know, girl could talk on the mic. So she had something going for her. Nia Jax has nothing to offer anybody. Like nothing. And like, it just like she constantly, and she's probably, if she hears this, she's going to like, you know, then she lashes out on everybody on Twitter. And it's just like, well, you're proving it, because like, what have you done? Like, what have you really done? Like, even when you were a face, you were terrible. Like, and it's just, she hasn't earned it. She hasn't gone the road that Charlotte Flair has gone, you know? Like, I'm not knocking Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair has earned her keep. Like, she proved it that, you know, it's not just a name why she's staying there. Nia Jax, another story.
Yeah, Nia Jax, I don't know. I mean, she's tough, because I understand the appeal of her. I get it. She's not like most girls. I get it. I get it that she looks different. She certainly stands out. She's got that unique look to her that she is, I mean, literally about 100 pounds more than most women on the roster. And that is a size advantage against people that you're facing. Although, apparently, according to Shorty G this week, that it never the size difference in his opponents never mattered. It's about, you know, performing in the ring. Yeah, as if, you know, if you're supposed to be competing for real, size and weight don't matter. Yeah, okay. That got me. That was just something on SmackDown that I was like, what are you talking about? How does weight and height not matter? That matters, right? But anyway, with this week with Nia Jax, she does have a terrible record. Let's look at it. She has injured many people. And you could chalk up a couple of them to, hey, accidents happen. They always happen. People inadvertently hurt all the time. I mean, look at what Seth Rollins has done with his buckle bomb. I mean, like, things have happened, and there are accidents that happen, but Nia Jax is kind of on a pattern now. It's not just a once or maybe twice. This is like several, like a handful, that you go, something's not right here. And I understand
she's sloppy. It's not even like, that's what I'm saying. Like, Seth Rollins, like, hurting a couple people, and like injuries happen. Like, you know, like, it's not that Seth Rollins is one of the best performers in the ring. She's just constantly sloppy. It's the same thing with Brie Bella, dude. Like, and look how fast Brie Bella retired after there was like 4 incidents in a row when she came back after she knocked Liv Morgan unconscious on TV after seeing her go down and hitting her again. Sloppy. She's not safe. There's an argument to be made there, you know?
No, there is. And furthermore, like, I don't even, like, Nia Jax has yet to cut a promo that I'm interested in. I mean, so it's not only her in-ring work, again, her appeal. She's got a great look. She's a pretty girl. She's a big girl. There's a lot you can draw from a marketing perspective, and she stands out. That's what you're looking for. But from an in-ring, she's not great, and she has not a great track record of keeping people safe. And I'm not saying she's doing this intentionally. I'm not saying she's a bad person. It's just that maybe she needs additional work. Maybe, I don't know. But she also, on the other side, the other big thing you need to have, promo. You don't have it. I mean, at least I haven't seen WWE at least give her the opportunity of, hey, we don't have a script for you today, but hit this, and this point, knock them dead. You got 5 minutes to go and do it. She has not yet done that to me. And maybe they don't have the faith for her to do it. Maybe she's not interested and she's okay with just the, hey, give me the one paragraph and I'll read it in my mind and then I'll recite it. But she has yet to knock my socks off with a promo at all. Like, I feel nothing for her character. I just kind of groan. I'm like, that's Nia Jax.
She cuts promos like a mean girl that like's not even a good mean girl.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, whatever. And I'm just
whiny.
like, oh my God, like, you sound like a Bella twin, get out of the ring.
Yes.
Like, it's just like, you know, like, stop. She's one of the times I turn off, I'll turn it off. I turn it off when she comes on. When she starts talking on mic, I'm like, I don't even care. Don't care.
It's kind of like a nasally, whiny... which is great for a heel if you knew how to cut a promo. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying I could do this. My point is, her in-ring isn't great. Her promos have yet to be even good. Not even close to great. We're not even talking about it. We're just talking about good. They've been like below average to sometimes average. But there's just, I don't understand, like, how we can have Nia Jax in a title picture and potentially think that she's a challenger for the women's championship when you have Asuka on the other end who's killing it right now, being like, honestly, Asuka right now is probably doing the best work of her career in WWE because she is just so wacky on the mic that I used to find it super annoying. I'm kind of like, hey, I want to see how wacky and obnoxious and weird and cartoonish she can be this week. And she kills it in the ring.
And they're not in English.
Yes. If she just says, like, if she speaks in Japanese for 5 minutes and then just says easy peasy, I'm happy. Like, I mean, that's fine because that's all she's done. Or you hear like kind of like a few words of English. That's all I need because she's so damn entertaining now. She has turned me where I used to despise that stuff and I used to like be head turning and groaning. I think WWE just said, hey, this is Asuka. Let's just roll with it. Let's let her just have the mic, speak in Japanese, screaming, and say a couple of words. And I think it'll eventually get over. And they were right. I am loving what Asuka's doing. And the difference between her and Nia Jax is that she can actually kick ass in the ring. Like, well,
that's what I was about to say. Like, even if like you don't like that, she will wail you and knock you out. Her in ring, she has it to back it up.
Big time.
Like, it doesn't matter. She is a brutal in-ring fighter, and she's believable. And they can mock her to her face, and they have, and she'll just come out and she will kick you in the face. Mm-hmm. Like, Nia Jax doesn't have that. That's what it is.
She doesn't. So, anything else we didn't touch on before we roll things up here?
No, man. I think we're good for right now.
I know. I know you had to eat before the show. Now I'm super hungry. Like, so.
Yeah, so you should go eat something.
I know. You had grilled cheese, right? I love grilled cheese.
Yeah, grilled cheese. Yeah, I like grilled. It's my easy too when I got to eat something quick. I make a grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese. Do you like grilled cheese and tomato soup though?
I don't like tomato soup.
Okay. So
I know that's a thing. I just like grilled cheese. I'll eat grilled cheese with tomatoes in it, but I don't like tomato soup. I don't know. I never liked it.
Huh. Okay. Because that usually goes like hand in hand.
I know, my dad used to eat it. I don't know if it's a texture thing or just like eating pureed tomatoes when I could have like tomato. I don't like tomato sauce either. I'm a terrible Italian. I don't like red sauce. So I don't know. It's just a weird thing. I like tomatoes. I just don't like them pureed. I like oranges. I don't like orange juice. I'm weird.
What the hell? All right. All right. So nothing pureed. Everything.
Not everything. It's just I'm weird. Like I like oranges, but I don't like orange juice. And I like tomatoes, but I don't like red sauce. Like I'm an olive oil and garlic Italian.
Okay.
I like whiter sauces, even though they hurt my stomach a lot now.
Like fettuccine Alfredo?
Yeah, I can't. I haven't eaten fettuccine Alfredo since high school. I can't eat it. It hurts it's a trigger for my IBS. I can't eat it.
Oh no. All right. Well, so
I'm weird Italian. I don't like tomato sauce. But
you got all the other traits of Italian.
Cheese. Everybody come at me.
No, I hear you. But you definitely have the gift of gab for Italians. That's for sure.
Yes, I do. We told you before. North Jersey Italian girl.
Yeah, you fit it to a T. So that's not a bad thing. So, all right. Well, Mary, let everyone know where they can find you on Twitter. I'm jealous because I can't follow you anymore. But where can they find you?
You can follow me at Mare_Bear BARE on Twitter or at Poppins311, and I will get to the bottom of the WWE podcast Twitter.
Sons of.
I've
been seething since May 19th, And that's
I'm a
ironic because
big mouth, and when I get mad, I start tweeting at people, and they get scared, and they answer me. I will get to the bottom of this.
seriously, I want somebody hung in the gallows for this. Like, I mean, and it's funny because May 19th was the day that it got suspended. And I was going to go on Twitter and talk about May 19th with Kane and that whole story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, sons of bitches, like May 19th. And out of all days, I don't know if somebody was just, I don't know, purposefully did that on May 19th or if, Kane had something to do with it. But yeah, it's been suspended for over a month. So I've kind of like.
I will get to the bottom of it because I did my friend's show, You Go First, with Blair Payton. Check it out. I did a show and he was going to plug our podcast and tag you.
Yeah, well, good luck.
Twitter. And that's how I found out it was suspended. And I texted you. I was like, is everything okay? Because Blair's like, I can't find this. And I was like, no, it's there. It's there. I saw it the other day. And then it was just gone.
It's just gone.
But I will get to the bottom of it.
All right. I trust you. You'll be a hero of the show if you're able to bring it back. So.
Mary Grater, a.k.a. Jessica Jones, P.I., is on the case.
Okay. All right. You said it here first. So, all right, Mary, thanks for joining the show, and we'll be talking minimum in 3 weeks, but maybe sooner.
Maybe sooner. I mean, if there's something crazy that happens, you know where I'm at.
Or if Punk or AJ Lee comes back, I know I'll be calling you.
That will never happen during a pandemic.
No, never.
The conspiracy theories for that has been on hold until there are crowds again. That'll never happen.
Fair enough. All right. Thanks, Mary, and enjoy your night.
You too, man.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.